Chapter 776 Your Majesty, the enemy from another world has arrived. After feeling Lu Chen's aura, Yun Xianxian opened her eyes and asked lightly, "You want to attack Xiang world?" Lu Chen lay on Yun Xiangxian's fragrant shoulder and took a deep breath in her ear. A woman's fragrance entered Lu Chen's nostrils, and Lu Chen suddenly felt refreshed. "Well, we will send troops in half a year." Originally, Lu Chen also wanted to send troops to Xiang world as soon as possible, so that he could capture the women in Xiang world who had a score of over 90 as soon as possible. However, considering that it was his first time to attack an entire world, Lu Chen finally decided to spend more time preparing. Yun Xianxian continued, "Aren't you afraid that that woman will destroy Tianchen world while you are away?" The woman in Yun Xiangxian's mouth naturally refers to her main body Yun Qingshu. Lu Chen smiled and replied, "To be honest, I am indeed a little worried." Although Yun Qingshu had already said that she wanted to cooperate with him, no one could say for sure whether Yun Qingshu would go back on his words. Yun Qingshu had never drank Dragon Phoenix tea, so Lu Chen could not trust her 100%. And when the time comes to attack the Xiang world, he will also take the people from the Black Dragon Holy Land to the Xiang world. Once Yin Zhenjai, the God Transformation Realm, leaves, it will be difficult for anyone in the Tianchen world to fight against Yun Qingshu. At this time, Lu Chen suddenly thought of something. The Black Dragon Holy brought 5-10,000 Dharma Realm monks to Tianchen world. After these 5-10,000 Dharma Realm monks put on the Shengui armor, they already had the strength of the God Transformation Realm. When the time comes, 2 of them will be left to guard Tianchen world. If Yun Qingshu really goes back on his promise, with the 2 of them dragging him along, they can drag Yin Zhenjai back to Tianchen world. Thinking of this, Lu Chen continued, "But it's not a big problem. I will let the Black Dragon Holy Land leave 2 monks of the 10,000 Dharma Realm in the Tianchen world, and then leave a puppet in the Black Dragon City. If she really goes back on her word, I can come back as soon as possible." After hearing what Lu Chen said, Yun Xianxian said, "You shouldn't have told me. Her consciousness can control my body at any time. If she suddenly possessed me, she would immediately know what you just said to me." Lu Chen said, "It's okay. Just know it. It's better if you know it. She won't dare to mess around until she knows it." If Yun Qingshu knew that he could return to the Tianchen world instantly, then she would consider the consequences of going back on her word, and would not act recklessly. Just when Yun Xianxian wanted to continue talking, Lu Chen's claw suddenly inserted into Yun Xiangxian's white dress. "Master, I have had some problems with my disciples' practice recently. Please help me adjust my meridians." Hearing this, Yun Xianxian turned his head slightly and gave him a resentful look. "Regulating meridians?" Yun Xianxian said coldly, "You have come to me to regulate your meridians too many times this year." In the past, Lu Chen would only visit her once in a while. After all, Lu Chen had so many women that she couldn't get her turn only a few times a year. As a result, since Yun Qingshu came, this guy has been staying with him for half a year. Not long after this guy wanted to regulate his meridians with him again. She didn't want to be the target of public criticism. Lu Chen's women were all watching. If she monopolized Lu Chen, those women might cause trouble for her. Although she is not afraid of those women, she is more afraid of trouble. Hearing what Yun Xianxian said, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Not much. Last time you took the initiative to help me regulate my meridians, not me looking for you. Last time, in order to take revenge on Yun Qingshu, Yun Xianxian kept Lu Chen from being separated from her. Lu Chen was not the active party at that time." Lu Chen didn't say much. He pushed Yun Xiangxian's body slowly down, and then blocked her lips. Yun Xianxian didn't struggle at all. Just adjust the meridians. Anyway, he didn't know how many times he had adjusted the meridians for this traitor. A moment later, Yun Xiangxian's voice regulating Lu Chen's meridians could be heard in the palace. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. During this half year, Lu Chen traveled to various places where his wives and concubines lived as before. Yun Qingshu did not possess Yongxiangxian during this period. However, the ferry boat in Swanyu Palace still did not leave, and was still parked outside Tianzhen World. This also made Lu Chen feel that Yun Qingshu had not given up yet and wanted to make some small moves. Although they have reached a cooperation, he now has no memory of the ancient era, and her Swanyu Palace is not in Tianzhen World. What is she doing in Tianzhen World all the time? Although they are a little worried about her, the Xia Dynasty is ready for war and can attack Xiang World at any time. Lu Chen didn't intend to drag it on any longer. Since Yun Qingshu was willing to stay outside Tianzhen World, let her stay. Anyway, he would leave a puppet in Black Dragon City, and he would be able to detect anything immediately. After everything was ready, the Great Xia Dynasty's flying boat headed to the place where Tianzhen World and Xiang World collided. After the Daxia army arrived at the crack in the rear boundary wall, Lu Chen did not immediately let the soldiers of the Daxia army enter the Xiang World. Now the other side of Tianzhen World is the demon-sealed Forbidden Land, and the heavenly demon has not been solved yet. If Daxia soldiers are allowed to break in like this, Daxia soldiers will probably be affected by the heavenly demon. So Lu Chen planned to deal with the demon first. Immediately, Lu Chen took Yin Zhenjai directly into the crack and came to the world of Xiang. When the main body came to the Xiang world, Lu Chen instantly sensed the strong power of the demon in the demon-sealed Forbidden Land. The moment his body appeared above the Forbidden Land of Demons, the heavenly demon sealed in the Forbidden Land of Demons immediately noticed his presence. Originally, the heavenly demon was ecstatic that another cultivator had come, but the next moment he realized something was wrong. Before he could make a move, he vaguely felt that his heavenly demon power was suppressed by the cultivator in the sky. What's going on? It's a heavenly demon. The heavenly demon is the nemesis of cultivators, so why is its power suppressed by the cultivator? No. Something is wrong. The heavenly demon realized that the cultivator who had just appeared was coming for him, so he quickly attacked the seal and tried to break through the seal and escape. As the heavenly demon struggled, the Forbidden Land of Demons began to shake, and the entire Xiang world felt the shaking of the earth. At the same time, Tianji Pavilion. In the high tower of Tianji Pavilion, an old man opened his eyes, and he suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood, and then immediately sent a message to the disciples of Tianji Pavilion in the high tower. An alien enemy has appeared. Everyone in the Tianji Pavilion should go to Black Moon City immediately. After hearing the old man's words, the entire Tianji Pavilion was in chaos. At this time, the old man's body disappeared in the tower. At this moment, the Xia Dynasty. Nangang Yuehua, wearing a phoenix robe, stood in front of the palace, looking towards the direction of Black Moon City. She also felt the movement just now. For some reason, in addition to the power of the demon, she seemed to feel that the way of heaven was asking her for help. Just when she was distracted, a familiar old man's voice came from behind her. Your Majesty, an alien enemy has arrived. Chapter 777 Lu Chen, it's better to release him. After hearing Gong Gai Liangpen's words, Nangang Yuehua turned to look at Gong Gai Liangpeng and said, I have made preparations. What does Pavilion Master Gong Gai plan to do next? Nangang Yuehua also figured out that if the enemy from another world was indeed very powerful, then he would take the initiative to help the demon break the seal and let the demon fight the enemy from the other world. She had no idea who was worse, the demons or the people from the other world, but for them, both the demons and the people from the other world were enemies. In this case, they would just sit back and watch the fight, and then they would take action as a third-party force after the two sides decided a winner. But having said that, even if the alien invaders and the demons fight with each other, the Xia Dynasty may not be their opponent. This is what Nangang Yuehua is most worried about. If it doesn't work, they have no choice but to keep the fire, open the world's passage, and take some people out of this world. Gong Gai Liangpeng said at this time, since His Majesty agrees, then follow me to the demon-sealed Forbidden Land and help the demon take the initiative to lift the seal. Nanggong Yuehua said, okay. Immediately, Nanggong Yuehua and Gong Gai Liangpeng went to Black Moon City. When they arrived at Black Moon City, other major forces in the Xiang world were already waiting in the sky above Black Moon City. Gong Gai Liangpeng had already sent people to inform other forces, and most of the forces still believed what Tianji Pavilion said. Although within Xiang world, various forces often have conflicts and frictions, but that is an internal matter of Xiang world after all. Now that external invaders suddenly appeared, they temporarily put aside their hatred and stood on a united front. After Nanggong Yuehua arrived at the sky above Black Moon City, he glanced at the large and small flying boats above Black Moon City, and finally his eyes fell on Nanggong Qinja. As an evil cultivator, Nanggong Qinja actually sided with Xiang world in the end. After seeing Gong Gai Liangpeng and the people from Tianji Pavilion arriving, the sect masters and leaders of the major forces immediately came to the vicinity of Gong Gai Liangpeng's flying boat. Master Gong Gai Pavilion, are you sure the other party is an intruder from another world? Master Gong Gai Pavilion, do you really plan to help the demon break through the seal? Master Gong Gai Pavilion, if the intruder is not the opponent of the heavenly demon, but is swallowed by the heavenly demon, and the heavenly demon becomes more powerful, then our Xiang world will be over. Although most people believe what Gong Gai Liangpeng said about the alien invaders, they are still skeptical about the countermeasures Gong Gai Liangpeng said. That is the heavenly demon, the nemesis of all monks. If the invader is stronger than the heavenly demon, how high must he be? The most important thing is that if the invader loses to the heavenly demon and is swallowed by the heavenly demon's strength will inevitably increase greatly, becoming more than 10 times stronger than before. By then, Xiang world may no longer be able to seal the heavenly demon. Xiang world had paid a heavy price in order to seal the heavenly demon back then, and now they actually wanted to take the initiative to release the heavenly demon. Compared with intruders from other worlds, most monks are more afraid of demons. The invaders from another world are still monks after all, and there is still room for bargaining, but the demons are purely another species, and the demons feed on the monks and are the natural enemies of the monks. How can they put their hopes on their natural enemies? Hearing people's concerns, Gong Gai Liangpeng said calmly, according to my calculations, this intruder is likely to steal the luck of Xiang world. Once the luck of Xiang world is stolen by this intruder, Xiang world will become a different place in the future. It becomes a world of death. Although the devil is scary, this enemy from another world is even more terrifying. I believe you also felt the fear of heaven just now. After hearing Gong Gai Liangpeng's words, people fell into deep thought. Indeed, when abnormalities occurred in the demon-sealed Forbidden Land, the monks above the 10,000 Dharma realm clearly felt that heaven seemed to be asking for help from them. They had rarely felt the will of heaven before, but this was the first time they had noticed the will of heaven. This showed that heaven also considered the invading enemy to be a huge threat to it. After Gong Gai Liangpeng finished speaking, the leaders of the major forces present fell into silence. The demon is a threat, and the enemies from other worlds are also a threat. One wants their lives, and the other wants to destroy the world. It seems that the only thing that can be done is to release the demon. But what if the demon is scared away by the alien enemy? At this time, Nanggong Qinja said coldly, Master Gong Gai Pavilion, if the demon is scared away by the invading enemy, wouldn't we have released a disaster? Gong Gai Liangpeng said, Master Sui Hongfang, please rest assured that the demon is not easily scared away. On the contrary, when he sees such a powerful monk, he wants to devour him. How can a demon who has been sealed for so many years let go so easily when he sees a delicious meal right in front of him? Everyone thought about it and felt that it seemed to make sense. At this time, a leader of the force stood up and said, in that case, let's take action. I have clearly felt the pressure of a strong person in the demon-sealed Forbidden Land. Everyone present also felt the powerful pressure. Judging from the pressure, the invading enemies were at least monks in the God Transformation realm, and might even be above the God Transformation realm. Gong Gai Liangpeng said, "Okay, then all fellow Taoists will join me in breaking the seal of the demonic Forbidden Land." While speaking, Gong Gai Liangpeng raised his finger, and a majestic black and white spiritual power rushed directly towards the demon-sealed Forbidden Land. Seeing that Gong Gai Liangpeng had taken action, the leaders of other forces were not idle either, and they followed suit. The moment everyone took action, the tremors of the demon-sealing Forbidden Land became more and more frequent, and cracks appeared in the depths of the mountains, and the strong power of the heavenly demon was released from the cracks. At the same time, the Black Moon City Lord's Mansion. Ji Kaihuyu and Lu Chen stayed in the yard, looking at the flying boat in the sky. Ji Kaihuyu already knew what was happening outside. She said with some dissatisfaction, "They are really crazy. They actually want to release the heavenly demon on their own initiative." This matter was led by Gong Gai Liangpeng, the pavilion master of the Tianji Pavilion. She, a cultivator in the creation realm, could not stop it, but she felt very uncomfortable. She had been guarding the Black Moon City for so many years, and she almost lost her life several times. Wasn't it to prevent the spread of monsters, so that the heavenly demon could absorb enough power to break the seal? Now people actually took the initiative to release the heavenly demon. Wouldn't that negate her credit for so many years? Moreover, her ancestors had made so many sacrifices to seal the demon, and now these people just let him go. But no matter how upset she felt, Ji Kaihuyu could only vent her anger in front of Lu Chen. At this time, Lu Chen, who was next to Ji Kaihuyu, smiled and said, "It's better to let him go." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Ji Kaihuyu was slightly stunned. She turned her head to look at Lu Chen and said in disbelief, Do you also think that the demon will help the Xiang world fight against the invaders from other worlds?" Chapter 778 Because I am the person from another world. Ji Kaihuyu found it difficult to accept that Lu Chen actually agreed to release the demon. That's a demon. The nemesis of all monks, the monster that feeds on monks, Lu Chen actually said it would be good to release it. If the demon devours the intruder from another world, it will no longer have an opponent in the Xiang world. At that time, it will definitely turn around and kill all the monks in the Xiang world. After all, the heavenly demon was sealed in the Xiang world back then, and the heavenly demon hated the monks in the Xiang world. Compared with intruders from other worlds, Ji Kaihuyu is more afraid of demons. Seeing Ji Kaihuyu's expression of disbelief, Lu Chen said lightly, "This is an opportunity for Xiang world to completely get rid of the demon. Let the demon be released now, and wait for the person from the other world to get rid of the demon. From now on, Xiang world will no longer be threatened by demons." Seeing that Lu Chen actually thought this way, Ji Kaihuyu curled his lips and then said, "That's true, but it is a demon, the nemesis of all monks, and it is immortal. How can it be so easy to get rid of? And if that demon is no match for someone from another world, he will definitely turn around and devour the monks from the Xiang world to increase their power." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Qiu, you don't have to worry too much, that person from another world is very strong." Seeing that Lu Chen was so optimistic, Ji Kaihuyu looked at Lu Chen suspiciously. She was very confused as to why Lu Chen was so optimistic about a person from another world. At this time, Ji Kaihuyu vaguely noticed that something was wrong. She frowned slightly and looked at Lu Chen's profile. "Lu Chen, why do you think so highly of people from other worlds?" Lu Chen turned his head and stared into Ji Kaihuyu's eyes, and then said, "Because I am that person from another world." As soon as these words came out, Ji Kaihuyu's mind went blank for a moment. Lu Chen, is a person from another world. How can this be? Soon, scenes of getting along with Lu Chen appeared in Ji Kaihuyu's mind. The first time she and Lu Chen met was outside the demon-sealed Forbidden Land. Moreover, Lu Chen's true body has never come to Black Moon City. In addition, Lu Chen possesses the demon burial technique and the King Mu longevity technique, which is a technique that does not exist in this world. All these seem to indicate that Lu Chen is indeed not from this world. For a moment, Ji Kaihuyu froze on the spot, not knowing how to face Lu Chen. Her Taoist companion turned out to be an invading enemy from another world. She is from the Xiang world, so logically she should be on the side of the Xiang world, but she had already fallen deeply in love with this person, even though his body had never met her. She also fell in love with his soul through the puppet. Seeing Ji Kaihuyu staring at him with a pale face, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Kaihuyu, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hide it from you." Lu Chen didn't know if Ji Kaihuyu would be angry, but it was already at this point and there was no need to hide anything. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Ji Kaihuyu came back to her senses and murmured, "No. I don't believe it. You are lying to me, right?" Lu Chen immediately hugged Ji Kaihuyu's body and let her head lie on his chest. Ji Kaihuyu quickly struggled. "You alien enemy, let me go." Lu Chen burst out laughing. Just now he didn't recognize himself as a person from another world, but now he immediately said that he was an enemy from another world. However, Ji Kaihuyu's struggle was not very strong. It was obvious that she was very confused and entangled in her heart at the moment. At this time, Lu Chen continued to say in Ji Kaihuyu's ear, "Kaihuyu, calm down first." Ji Kaihuyu said angrily, "How can you tell me to calm down? I finally found a Taoist companion, but you actually told me that you were an intruder from another world. What do you want me to do? You liar! Why do you do this to me? She is from the Xiang world, so she naturally wants to side with the Xiang world, but the person she falls in love with is an invading enemy. How does she make a choice?" The more Ji Kaihuyu talked, the more excited she became, and soon her tears couldn't stop flowing down. "You're a bastard! Just kill me!" Lu Chen didn't say anything, just hugged her tightly. After an unknown amount of time, Ji Kaihuyu's cries became smaller and smaller, and the demonic forbidden land was shaken again. Lu Chen then spoke, "Kaihuyu, it is true that I am from another world, but my feelings for you are real." Ji Kaihuyu snorted coldly, "Do you think I will ever believe what you, a liar, say again? You are approaching me just to have an identity that is not easily noticed in this world, and then use me to find out information about this world. She has figured everything out now. No wonder Lu Chen has been asking her about things in this world before and has no idea about what is happening in this world. This dead liar originally said nonsense like he had lost his memory. She was so stupid that she actually believed what he said." Ji Kaihuyu continued, "Now that your goal has been achieved, I am useless, so let's do it." Although Lu Chen in front of him was just a puppet, this puppet possessed the strength of the yin and yang realm, and she could not make a splash in front of him even if she was in the creation realm. Moreover, she was heartbroken by Lu Chen's identity. Now she wants to die and doesn't want to face what will happen next. Hearing Ji Kaihuyu's words, Lu Chen knew that she was heartbroken, so he said, "Kaihuyu, you are my Taoist companion. I will never kill you." Ji Kaihuyu said coldly, "If you don't kill me, I will kill you. We are enemies. I have nothing to say to you, our relationship as Taoist companions is over." Lu Chen said firmly, "This is not up to you. As long as you are my Taoist companion for one day, you will be my Taoist companion for all your lives." Ji Kaihuyu continued, "I will never believe your lies again. Kill me." Seeing that she was so determined to die, Lu Chen said, "Okay, I will satisfy you and let you die." Hearing Lu Chen's words, 2 lines of tears fell from the corners of Ji Kaihuyu's eyes again. Finally, the dream is about to wake up. However, just when Ji Kaihuyu was ready to die, Lu Chen spoke again, "You have never seen my true form. Even if you want to die, how about you see my true form before you die?" Ji Kaihuyu said coldly, "What's the point? Even if I see your true form, we are destined to be enemies. Lu Chen said, it still makes sense. After all, we have been Taoist companions for so long. If you don't even know what my true form looks like before you die, then you will be at a disadvantage. Ji Kaihuya was about to say something, but suddenly thought in her heart, yes, she had been deceived by this bastard for so long. If she didn't even know what he looked like before she died, she would not be able to find anyone to avenge herself after she died. Ji Kaihuya immediately said, okay, then I will wait for your true form to arrive. At that time, I will self-destruct my Danshan and perish with your true form. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 779 The Demon is Actually Afraid? Seeing that Ji Kaihuya was temporarily stabilized, Lu Chen smiled faintly. Now he only needed to deal with the heavenly demon to deter the forces in the Xiang world, and things would be easy to handle afterwards. At the same time, the noise coming from the demon sealing Forbidden Land was getting louder and louder, and the sky above the demon sealing Forbidden Land was constantly gathering demonic energy. A powerful pressure was released from the demon sealing Forbidden Land. The leaders of the major forces present felt the pressure. Some weak cultivators were directly frightened to death by the pressure. Nangang Yuehua looked at the cracks in the demon sealing Forbidden Land with a pale face, and was extremely afraid in his heart. This was the pressure of the heavenly demon, too terrible. He didn't know whether it was right or wrong to release the heavenly demon. If the alien invader was really not the opponent of the heavenly demon and was swallowed by the heavenly demon, the Xiang world would probably be destroyed by the heavenly demon. At this time, Lu Chen's body was still standing at the crack, quietly waiting for the heavenly demon to break the seal. After an unknown amount of time, black beams of light shot up from the depths of the mountains, and then a strong voice reached everyone's mind. Ha 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 ha, this demon finally broke through the seal. Ants of the Xiang world, this demon will kill you all. As the voice fell, the power of the demon exploded, and the flying boats above the Black Moon City were instantly pushed hundreds of miles away by the power of the demon. Then, a black mist slowly rose from the depths of the mountains, and there were two red eyes as big as the sun in the black mist. Seeing this scene, the cultivators of the Xiang world were instantly terrified. Those fears gathered into wisps of black air and floated directly into the black mist. Delicious! It's really delicious! My food! Be afraid! Tremble! At this time, a sect leader looked at Gong Gai Liangpeng and said, Gong! Pavilion Master Gong Gai, is that alien invader really a match for the demon? Gong Gai Liangpeng looked at the black mist with excitement at this time, and did not answer the sect leader's question. At this time, Nangang Yuehua noticed something was wrong. Gong Gai Liangpeng didn't show any fear at all, and he looked extremely excited. He seemed to have become a different person. Nangang Yuehua frowned and felt very uneasy. They were fooled? Did Gong Gai Liangpeng lie to them? Just as Nangang Yuehua was thinking this, a young man's voice came from the depths of the mountains. I am the master of the Tianchen world and the emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty. The Xiang world openly broke the seal of the Forbidden Land of the demons, released the demons, and made enemies with the demons. This is an unforgivable crime. Hearing this, the cultivators of the Xiang world were extremely speechless. This invader actually used the demons as an excuse. They released the demons to deal with this guy, but now this guy is on the side of justice. At this time, Nangang Yuehua woke up instantly. Although the invaders from other worlds don't need any excuses when invading, once they have an excuse, wouldn't it be easier for them to control the entire Xiang world next time? Think about it, most of the common people in Xiang world don't know about the invaders. In the eyes of most common people, it was the many forces in Xiang world who jointly broke the seal of the demon, and the people from the other world came here just to destroy the demon. The demon is the nightmare of all cultivators, and the people from the major forces in Xiang world actually chose to break the demon seal and release the demon. Who is the bad guy? It's clear at a glance. Now the people from the other world are on the side of justice. Once they invade, there will be many people who don't know the truth standing on the side of the people from the other world. In the eyes of the common people, it is the strong people in this world who betrayed them, and the people from the other world came to save them. This. Nangang Yuehua suddenly felt a little confused in her mind, and she suddenly regretted agreeing to Gongai Liang Peng. At this time, the people from all major forces felt extremely indignant. This alien is so shameless. He actually slandered us like this. That's right, it was them who invaded first, and we released the demon just to resist their invasion. This is bad. In the eyes of ordinary people, we took the initiative to release the demon. Just then, the demon sensed the pressure behind him, and it turned back suddenly, staring at Yin Zhenjai next to Lu Chen. After seeing Yin Zhenjai, the demon laughed. Just after breaking the seal, there are delicacies from the transformation realm delivered to the door. Hearing the words of the demon, the people of Xiang world suddenly became nervous. Finally, is it going to start? Who is weaker and who is stronger between the demon and the alien invader will soon be revealed. When the demon was about to take action, Lu Chen, who was next to Yin Zhenjai, asked with his spiritual power, I am a little curious, how did you get sealed in this place? Hearing Lu Chen's voice, the demon realized that there was another person next to the transformation realm cultivator. When the demon saw Lu Chen, he continued to laugh and said, so there is another ant in the Wanfa realm. As soon as the demon finished speaking, the demon power on his body was immediately released, and countless huge black hands rushed out of the black fog and rushed directly towards Lu Chen and Yin Zhenjai. At this time, the cultivators of the major forces in the Xiang world stared at the depths of the mountain. Seeing the demon power coming straight towards him, Lu Chen directly took out the exorcist banner. He did not intend to waste too much time. Later, he would satisfy Ji Kaiyu's desire to die and let Ji Kaiyu die. The moment the exorcist banner was taken out, the demon immediately noticed something was wrong. What is this? The demon's voice was obviously trembling. Hearing the demon's voice, the cultivators in the Xiang world were all stunned. Is the demon afraid? The demon is actually afraid? How could the demon be afraid? No matter what cultivator the demon faces, he will never feel fear. Even when the demon is sealed, he is still unruly. However, people actually heard fear in the demon's tone. Lu Chen smiled and said, this is a good thing for you to return to your universe. No need to thank me. As soon as the voice fell, the exorcist banner released a golden light. The moment the light came into contact with the demon's power, it directly purified the demon's power. Seeing this scene, the demon was completely shocked. Responding, the demon turned directly into a black mist and fled towards the direction of Black Moon City. Seeing the demon actually running towards Black Moon City, the monks of Xiang world were frightened and turned pale instantly. Oh no! The demon is coming! Everyone, run away! The demon is actually coming towards us! For a moment, all the major forces were in chaos. When the demon was about to fly over Black Moon City, Lu Chen's body suddenly appeared in front of the demon, blocking its way. Lu Chen continued, I am so kind to send you back, but you don't appreciate it. The demon roared, human, don't force me. Lu Chen didn't say any more nonsense and once again urged the exorcist banner. End of this chapter. Chapter 780, Xiang world is defeated. After the light of the exorcist banner shone on the demon's power dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this scene, the cultivators of Xiang world were stunned. How could this happen? This demon was not only scared away by the alien invaders, but was also suppressed and beaten. After the demon felt his body dissipating, he quickly turned around and fled deep into the mountains. Now he just wanted to leave Xiang world. This human cultivator was too weird. Although there are indeed some things in this world that can restrain the power of the demon, such as black gold. But the effect of black gold is limited. This is the first time he has encountered such a treasure that can directly dissipate his demon power. He has never heard of such a thing in this universe before. Where did this human cultivator get this thing? It's terrible. Seeing that the demon was scared away by the alien again, the cultivators of Xiang world were stunned again. You are a demon. A demon was actually frightened like this by a human cultivator. Are you worthy of being a demon? Judging from the behavior of the demon, the cultivators of Xiang world have basically guessed the outcome. A demon can be frightened like this by a cultivator, which shows that this cultivator has the power to absolutely crush it. It seems that their plan to use the demon to make the demon and the alien invader lose both is going to fail. With the strength shown by this alien, after the demon is driven out of Xiang world, he will not consume too much strength. At that time, Xiang world will join forces to deal with this alien, and there will be no chance of winning. For a while, some forces in Xiang world have the idea of escaping. Now, while the demon is holding back the alien, they still have time to build a world channel. If the demon is driven out of Xiang world by the alien's attention will be focused on them, and they will probably be too late to build a world channel. Seeing that the demon was about to run to the crack of the world boundary wall, Lu Chen immediately took out the god-killing sword and gathered all his spiritual power. Ice Level 8 Sword. In an instant, the entire demon sealing forbidden land was frozen, and the sky seemed to be frozen. For a moment, the mountains of the demon sealing forbidden land were covered with snow and turned into a cold snowy land. The demon was also frozen in the air. It tried to break the ice, but Lu Chen did not give it this opportunity. The next moment, 8 sword energies passed through the demon's body. The demon's body instantly turned into grains of ice, and the demonic energy and demon power also dissipated and could no longer condense. Demons usually cannot be killed. Most demons can only be sealed. Even if the demon is cut into countless small pieces, the demon can be resurrected. However, the power of the demon that had come into contact with the demon burial art and the demon exorcist banner had been greatly suppressed. As long as the body was destroyed, the power of the demon on the demon would instantly dissipate, and the demon could no longer condense a demon body. Seeing the body of the demon dissipate in the air, the cultivators of the major forces in the Xiang world were all stunned on the flying boat. Kill the demon with one sword. The demon that their ancestors had paid a painful price to seal was actually killed by an alien invader with one sword. How strong is this alien invader? Gong Gai Liangpeng was also stunned in the same place, with a look of horror on his face. Nanggong Yuehua turned his head and saw the expression on Gong Gai Liangpeng's face, frowned, and was about to say something, only to see the leader of a sect said to Gong Gai Liangpeng, "Master Gong Gai, I suddenly remembered that I have something else to do, so I will leave first." As soon as the voice fell, the sect leader directly took the elders and disciples of their sect to control the flying boat and escaped. Even the demon was killed by the alien invader, how could they be the opponent of the alien invader? Moreover, the demon was released by their forces. This matter will soon spread throughout the Xiang world. By then, the reputation of their major forces will be ruined. Before the alien enemies come, the people of this world will rebel against them. There is no place for them in the Xiang world. Now it may be in time to return to their forces, activate the formation, and then build a world channel to escape. If it is a step late, when the alien invader catches up, they will have no chance to escape. Seeing that someone ran away directly, other forces immediately joined the escape team. Gong Gai Liangpeng was like waking up from a dream at this time. He directly left the disciples of Tianji Pavilion and his body disappeared instantly. Gong Gai Liangpeng's disappearance meant that the resistance line of the Xiang world completely collapsed, and the sky above the entire Black Moon City was in chaos. Many flying boats collided when they left. Before the Great Xia army came from the Tianchen world, many monks in the Xiang world died because of the collision of flying boats. People were thinking that they should escape quickly and let others drag the alien invaders behind to create opportunities for them to build a world channel. Seeing this scene, Nangang Yuehua felt very uncomfortable. She had won the throne with great difficulty, but she didn't expect that she would lose it after sitting on it for only a few years. She glanced at Nangang Kinja in the distance, and then sent a voice to Nangang Kinja, "Kinja, the situation is over, we have to leave, follow me, it will be faster for us to build a world channel together." In the past, Nangang Yuehua was afraid that others would know that Nangang Kinja, the female devil, was her sister, but now it was different. The Xiang world would be destroyed soon, and they would all leave the Xiang world. Why should they care about these things? When they left the Xiang world, everything they had would be gone. Going to other worlds would be like starting over again, and she would no longer have to worry about what others thought of her. Hearing Nangang Yuehua's voice transmission, Nangang Kinja immediately turned her head to look at Nangang Yuehua, and then said good in the voice transmission. Then, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Kinja's flying boats also flew towards the Great Xia Dynasty. At this time, Lu Chen couldn't help but smile when he saw the forces of the Xiang world dispersed in the distance. It was almost the same as he thought. As long as the demon was killed by him, the major forces of the Xiang world would be shocked. He didn't care at all that those monks in the Wanfa realm opened up the world channel to escape from the Xiang world. For him, if the high-level people in the Xiang world escaped, it would be more conducive to his rule over the entire Xiang world. Moreover, if there is no resistance, it will take him less time and energy to occupy the entire Xiang world, so he hopes that those strong men will escape. He even plans to give them time to build a world channel to escape from this world. At this moment, the entire Black Moon City was in chaos. The Sky Demon was killed by a sword, and even the top forces of the Xiang world fled. This means that the power of the alien invaders has far exceeded that of the Xiang world. The monks of Black Moon City also embarked on the road of escape. Soon, only some old, weak, and sick people were left in the entire Black Moon City. Seeing the monks fleeing in a hurry in the sky, Ji Kaihuya was stunned. The Xiang world was defeated just like this. Chapter 781. You can start now. Ji Kaihuya did not see the battle between Lu Chen and the demon, but through the movements of the major forces fleeing, she basically guessed the result. At this time, Lu Chen's puppet hugged Ji Kaihuya's waist and whispered in her ear, "The major forces in Xiang world took the initiative to release the demon, which gave me an opportunity to attack Xiang world." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Ji Kaihuya felt very complicated. She was also against releasing the demon in her heart. Even if the enemies from other worlds invaded, in her eyes, the demon was the main enemy of the cultivators. Now the major forces in Xiang world have joined forces to release the demon. Even if they say that it is to let the demon resist the invaders from other worlds, in the eyes of most ordinary people, their actions are tantamount to destroying the entire Xiang world. The so-called invaders from other worlds entered Xiang world at this time and eliminated the demon, which actually helped Xiang world get rid of a scourge. In addition, now that the major forces have fled without any resistance, the people of Xiang world have even less good feelings towards the major forces. In this case, as long as the army of the other world enters the Xiang world, many low-level forces will choose to surrender. It can be said that the Xiang world now belongs to Lu Chen, and the next step is just to go through a takeover process. Ji Kaihuya felt very uncomfortable when she thought that she had become a traitor to the Xiang world and an accomplice of Lu Chen's alien invaders. Damn! This dead liar is so powerful. For a powerful existence like him, I am afraid that even if I, a person in the realm of creation, self-destruct in front of him, will not cause any harm to him. She, a traitor, will be infamous in the Xiang world for thousands of years. At the same time, after Lu Chen killed the demon, he immediately sent a message through the puppet to let the army of the Tianchen world enter the Xiang world. Not long after, a number of flying boats with the flag of Daxia entered this world through the cracks in the boundary wall. When the first Daxia flying boat entered the sky above the Black Moon City, Ji Kaihuya was already ashamed. Looking at the flags flying in the sky that she had never seen before, Ji Kaiyu said to Lu Chen's puppet, "You can start now." Lu Chen said lightly, "Don't worry." Speaking of this, Lu Chen suddenly thought of something, so he smiled and said, "I can give you two choices, one is to die directly, and the other is to forget me and die later." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Ji Kaiyu felt like a knife was twisting her heart. It turned out to be a dead liar. He said he liked her, but he still wanted to kill her in the end. At this point, she was no longer afraid of death, but Lu Chen's deception and attitude towards her made her feel more uncomfortable than death. Ji Kaiyu immediately said, "If you have a way to erase my memory, then come." Compared to dying in pain and entanglement, she would rather forget this dead liar and die without knowing anything. Lu Chen said, "Then wait a moment, soon my people will send you the spiritual tea that can make you forget everything." Hearing this, Ji Kaiyu closed her eyes slightly and waited quietly. After an unknown amount of time, a woman in white jumped down from the flying boat in the sky, holding a pot of tea and a cup in her hands. After feeling the breath of this woman, Ji Kaiyu opened her eyes again, and saw that the woman in front of her was cold and beautiful, with a noble temperament, like a fairy descending from the earth. Ji Kaiyu's brain was slightly startled. As she thought, there was no shortage of beautiful women around this dead liar. However, all this had nothing to do with her. After all, she was going to die soon. Bai Qingqing poured a cup of tea and handed it to Ji Kaiyu, and then said, "This is the reward from His Majesty." Seeing the cup of tea in front of her, Ji Kaiyu turned her head and glanced at the Lu Chen puppet next to her. "Is this the spiritual tea that can make me forget you?" Lu Chen said, "Yes, as long as you drink it, you will immediately forget all the memories about me." As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, Ji Kaiyu stretched out her jade hand. When her delicate jade fingers were about to touch the teacup, her arm began to tremble uncontrollably. "Do you really want to forget him?" At this moment, the scenes of her time with Lu Chen replayed in her mind. That was the happiest time in her life. In the past, she only knew how to practice and had never experienced the feeling of love until Lu Chen appeared. Although she did approach Lu Chen for the non-existent exorcism swordsmanship at the beginning, as she spent more and more time with Lu Chen, she gradually found that it was difficult for her to leave Lu Chen. Lu Chen's figure always appeared in her mind involuntarily. When Lu Chen was not by her side, her eyes were always looking for Lu Chen. Seeing that Ji Kaiyu was reluctant to take the teacup from Bai Qingqing, Lu Chen smiled and said, "What's wrong? Can't you bear to forget me? So you still have feelings for me?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Ji Kaiyu came back to her senses. She bit her silver teeth and snatched the teacup directly from Bai Qingqing's hand. Then she looked at Lu Chen fiercely and cursed, "You are a dead liar." After cursing, Ji Kaiyu drank the tea in one breath. The moment she drank the dragon and phoenix tea, Ji Kaiyu looked up at the sky, and tears fell from her eyes again. It's over. Everything is over. She and Lu Chen are over, and her life is over. After an unknown amount of time, Ji Kaiyu suddenly opened her eyes. She turned her head to look at Lu Chen's puppet, and a trace of confusion flashed in her eyes. What's going on? Why hasn't she forgotten Lu Chen, a liar? Ji Kaiyu asked in confusion, "Why is this tea useless?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "It will take a while for it to take effect." As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, a young man wearing a black gold dragon robe fell from the sky and landed directly not far from Ji Kaiyu. The moment Lu Chen's true form appeared, Ji Kaiyu froze on the spot. Although Lu Chen didn't explicitly say that he was coming now in his true form, Ji Kaiyu instantly guessed that the Lu Chen who came this time must be his true form. The aura exuded by Lu Chen's body was completely different from that of the puppet. He emerged from the earth like a banished immortal, and a vague and special aura floated into Ji Kaiyu's nose, making Ji Kaiyu just smell it. At the slightest touch, I feel extremely restless in my body. Ji Kaiyu murmured, "Lu." Lu Chen, is that you? Lu Chen smiled faintly and put away the puppet next to Ji Kaiyu. It's me. After hearing Lu Chen's affirmative reply, Ji Kaiyu suddenly woke up and said coldly, "How dare you appear in front of me? Are you not afraid that I will blow up my danchan and die with you?" Lu Chen said, "Let's not talk about whether you can hurt me if you blow up your danchan. Even if you can hurt me, I believe you won't blow up your danchan in front of me." Ji Kaiyu said with an indifferent expression, "Do you think I still like you? Ridiculous. From the moment you told me that you were from another world, I only had hatred for you in my heart." Lu Chen said, "Oh? Really?" Ji Kaiyu then raised his neck and continued, "You can do it now." Now that she has seen Lu Chen's true form, she has no regrets. End of chapter. Chapter 782, Aaron and number 039, Tu seeking death? I and number 039, LL let you die now. Chapter 782, Aren't you seeking death? I'll let you die now. Seeing Ji Kaiyu's look of seeking death, Lu Chen said, "Okay, since you're seeking death, I'll satisfy you now." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Ji Kaiyu closed her eyes again. This time, it's really over. Finally. Just when Ji Kaiyu thought that she was going to die this time, suddenly, she felt that her body seemed to lose balance and fell on something soft. Immediately afterwards, her body seemed to be pressed down by something, and the next moment, a strong breath entered her nose again, instantly igniting a certain fire in her heart, making her whole body extremely restless. Ji Kaiyu hurriedly opened her eyes, but after she opened her eyes, she found that she was no longer in the yard, but in her room, and she was still lying on her soft couch, and Lu Chen pressed her body down, looking down at her. "This? What's going on?" Ji Kaiyu said in confusion, what are you going to do?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "Aren't you seeking death? I'll kill you now." Ji Kaiyu was immediately confused. It only took one sword to kill her. Why did he need to bring her to the bed? Just when Ji Kaiyu was puzzled and didn't know what Lu Chen wanted to do, Lu Chen suddenly leaned down and blocked her red lips. Ji Kaiyu suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. When she reacted, she struggled, but she was already weak at the moment, and the struggle was in vain. Ji Kaiyu was about to raise her jade fist to hit Lu Chen's chest, but was caught by Lu Chen's two big hands, and then pressed directly on both sides of her hair. After an unknown amount of time, under Lu Chen's kiss, Ji Kaiyu gradually gave up struggling. She felt her brain go blank, her whole body was extremely agitated, and her two slender legs kept twisting. Just when Ji Kaiyu was about to lose herself, she suddenly came to her senses again. This dead liar is an enemy from another world, how could she have such thoughts about this guy? No, absolutely not. This bastard must want to take away her innocence first, and then kill her. She must not let this bastard succeed. Ji Kaiyu struggled again, but at this moment, she suddenly heard a tearing sound, and before she could figure out what happened, a strange feeling spread throughout her body. Ugh! After a muffled groan, 2 lines of clear tears slid down the corners of Ji Kaiyu's eyes again, and finally let this dead liar succeed. In the end, she gave up struggling and let Lu Chen assassinate her. Great Xia Dynasty, underground of the palace. Nangang Yuehua stood in front of a round stone plate, seemingly thinking about something. Since she became a Wanfa realm, she had never tried to create a world channel and had no experience at all. The key is that she doesn't know what world this world channel leads to. If they open the world channel and go to a very dangerous world, and lose their lives as soon as they go there, it would be better to find a place to hide in Xiang world. Nangang Kinja stood next to Nangang Yuehua and said indifferently, "You worked hard to become the emperor, but you will lose everything in just a few years. I don't know how you feel now." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua observed the formation disc in front of her and said, they are just external things. Leaving Xiang world is not necessarily a bad thing for me. Although she is indeed obsessed with the supreme power, she also knows that if she stays in the low-level cultivation world of Xiang world, it will be difficult for her strength and realm to be further improved. The strongest cultivator in this world is only in the Wanfa realm. It is rumored that there was once a cultivator in the Huashan realm in the Xiang world, but that cultivator was not from the Xiang world. The latter cultivator died in the battle to seal the heavenly demon. Since then, there has never been a cultivator in the Huashan realm in this world. Today, Nangang Yuehua can clearly feel that her realm improvement has almost stagnated in the Wanfa realm, and it is difficult to make further progress. If she stays in the Xiang world, she can only wait for the deadline of the Wanfa realm to come. If she leaves the Xiang world and goes to a high-level cultivation world, she may still have the hope of breaking through to the Huashan realm, or even reaching a higher level. Of course, there is nothing wrong with being an emperor, but for her, going to other high-level cultivation worlds to find opportunities can make her life richer and more open. After hearing Nangang Yuehua's words, Nangang Qinja chuckled. She didn't believe what Nangang Yuehua said at all. She spent so much effort to become the empress, and she just let it go like that? No reluctance at all? Impossible. However, Nangang Qinja did not dwell on whether Nangang Yuehua was willing to give up the throne. The most important thing now was to leave the Xiang world. The enemy from the other world was too strong. Even if Nangang Yuehua was unwilling, it was useless. The other party could kill the demon with one sword. Even if all the Wanfa realms in the Xiang world were added together, they could not be the opponent of the enemy from the other world. At this time, Nangang Yuehua took out more than a dozen top-grade spirit stones, put them into the holes of the disc array in front of her, and then tried to control the array to open the world channel. As she poured spiritual power into the formation, a door gradually appeared above the circular formation disc, but this door was looming and unstable. Nangang Yuehua then shouted, "Qinja!" Nangang Qinja instantly understood what Nangang Yuehua meant, so she immediately took action and poured spiritual power into the circular formation disc in front of them. However, what they didn't expect was that as their spiritual power poured in, the entrance to the world channel in front of them soon collapsed, and a stable world channel was not formed. Nangang Yuehua frowned slightly. What was going on? Although this was her first time to build a world channel and she had no experience, with her power in the Wanfa realm, plus Nangang Qinja's assistance, this world channel should not collapse so quickly. Nangang Yuehua pondered for a moment, then took out dozens of top-grade spirit stones and placed them in the slots of the array disc. Then she infused spirit power into the array disc again. "Qinja, let's try again." Then, the two tried to build the world channel again, but the result was the same as their first time. When the entrance of the transmission channel was formed, it collapsed directly soon after it was formed, and it was difficult to stabilize the entrance. If the entrance cannot be stabilized, there is no way to send other people to leave the Xiang world. The two of them can leave this world at the moment the entrance of the world channel opens. However, Nangang Yuehua obviously did not intend to escape alone. She also planned to take her confidants with her. She was used to the life of being served by others. She still said that it was a bit difficult for her to leave this world alone. The same is true for Nangang Qinja. She also did not intend to leave alone. At least she wanted to take the elders of the Blood Rainbow Square with her. Chapter 783 Is he dead now? Ji Kaihuya finally understood why Lu Chen said he wanted her to die, but took her into the room instead. She is indeed dead now. But she is not completely dead, at least she is still alive, but her brain is dead. Ji Kaihuya tried hard to suppress her emotions in her heart, not wanting to let herself fall into depravity. She has seen Lu Chen's little tricks. This dead liar wanted to use this method to make her fall, and then turn her into his slave girl, so that she would not be so eager to die. No, she must not let this dead liar's plan succeed. She can't enjoy it like this anymore. She has to stay awake. Ji Kaihuyu tried hard to calm her inner restlessness, but no matter what she did, the physical feelings would still be transmitted to her brain. Soon, she was in a trance again, with only one consciousness left deep in her heart. I'm done. Ji Kaihuyu subconsciously knew that Lu Chen had succeeded, and she could no longer leave this dead liar. She liked him in the first place. Although Lu Chen cheated on her, her feelings for him would not disappear just because he cheated on her. Now that Lu Chen used this method to deal with her again, her feelings for him became even deeper. Just when Ji Kaihuyu was in a trance, Lu Chen's voice suddenly rang in her ears, "Kaihuyu, are you dead?" Hearing Lu Chen's mean voice, Ji Kaihuyu suddenly woke up. Her eyes were hazy and she could no longer see Lu Chen's face clearly, but she knew that Lu Chen must be very proud now. Ji Kaihuyu bit her silver teeth lightly, then snorted coldly and said, You don't think, this will make me, surrender. I will never, be gentle." Although she said that she would not surrender, Ji Kaihuyu knew very well in her heart that she didn't care at all whether Lu Chen was from another world or not. At this time, Lu Chen was moving while looking at Ji Kaihuyu's jade face. "Kaihuyu, although I am from another world, our positions are opposite to a certain extent. I will not make too many excuses on attacking Xiang world. But my feelings for you are real, and I have never thought of hurting you." Ji Kaihuyu snorted and said, "You keep saying, you say you like me, so are you willing to leave this world for me, Lu Chen said, "That won't work. I am the world master of Tianchen world. Since I have already sent troops, I have to give an explanation to the major forces in Tianchen world and the soldiers of Daxia." Ji Kaihuyu said, "What do you mean by liking me? You just want me to become your slave girl." After Ji Kaihuyu finished speaking, Lu Chen suddenly grabbed one of her long jade legs, then hugged her waist and turned her over. Ji Kaihuyu gritted her teeth. This dead liar said he liked her, but he still used various means on her. Sure enough, in this guy's eyes, she was just a plaything. Lu Chen continued, "Kaihuyu, I can assure you that if the major forces in Xiang world are willing to join me, I will never kill people in Xiang world. And I will give them enough time to consider. If those cultivators in the Wanfa realm want to leave this world, I will also give them enough time to build a world channel to leave this world. The Daxia army will be temporarily stationed in Black Moon City. We will send troops to attack the major forces half a month later." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Ji Kaihuyu, who was lying on the bed, fell silent. For her, no matter what Lu Chen did, it could not change the fact that Lu Chen was an invader from another world. But if Lu Chen really wanted to say what he said, that as long as you join him, you will not kill people, then it is indeed good news for Xiang world. Seeing that Ji Kaihuyu didn't speak, Lu Chen immediately got angry twice. Ji Kaihuyu couldn't help but snorted, and then she said, what you want to do, has nothing to do with me." Ji Kaihuyu knew her position. She was just an insignificant person. How could she be qualified to negotiate with a world master like Lu Chen? Moreover, in her opinion, she is now just a plaything of Lu Chen, who can't even control her life and death. What's the point of Lu Chen's promise to her? Even if he promises something, Lu Chen can also go back on his word. Besides, Lu Chen has such strong strength that even if he goes back on his word, no one can do anything to him if he kills people in Xiang world. Even those Wanfa realm cultivators have fled. No one in Xiang world can be Lu Chen's opponent. It is only a matter of time before Lu Chen unifies the entire Xiang world. After hearing Ji Kaihuyu's words, Lu Chen leaned over, put his chest against her jade back, and then continued in her ear, "Do you still want to die?" Hearing this, Ji Kaihuyu's delicate body trembled slightly, and then said coldly, "Even if you don't kill me, when you let me go, I will commit suicide. Don't even think about turning me into your slave girl. Lu Chen laughed, okay, since you still want to die, then I'll let you die again. Then Lu Chen used the methods he used against Yun Xianxian and Su Hanyan on Ji Kaiyu, and it didn't take long for Ji Kaiyu to bear it. Lu Chen's devilish voice echoed in her mind, are you dead now? Ji Kaiyu wanted to be tough, but her consciousness was out of control, and she murmured, I'm going to die. Lu Chen continued, call me husband. Ji Kaiyu unconsciously said, husband. Husband. Ah. Ji Kaiyu was only at the creation realm now. Lu Chen's methods of dealing with Yun Xianxian and Su Hanyan were all specific to the Wanfa realm cultivators. Using the methods used to deal with the Wanfa realm cultivators to deal with Ji Kaiyu at the creation realm, Ji Kaiyu naturally had no choice but to surrender. A few days later, Lu Chen asked the puppet Lu Chen to convey an order and send a notice to the entire Xiang world. And he asked the Tianchen world to print a lot of leaflets, and then had people send these leaflets to various forces in the Xiang world. Lu Chen stated in the notice that the major forces in the Xiang world were in league with the heavenly demon, disregarding the lives of the people, colluding with the heavenly demon, and releasing the heavenly demon. Tianchen world and Xiang world are adjacent to each other. After the release of the heavenly demon, Tianchen world also suffered. In order to maintain the peace and stability of the cultivation world and for the people of both worlds, the Great Xia Dynasty took the initiative to send troops to attack the Xiang world. Now that the heavenly demon has been destroyed by the Great Xia Dynasty, in order to prevent the remaining demon cultivators in the Xiang world from colluding with the heavenly demon again and endangering the Xiang world, the Great Xia Dynasty decided to bring the entire Xiang world under the rule of the Great Xia Dynasty. He will give those forces some time to consider. If they take the initiative to surrender to the Great Xia Dynasty and take the initiative to eliminate the demon cultivators in their respective forces, the Great Xia Dynasty cannot hold them responsible for colluding with the demon cultivators. End of this chapter. Chapter 784 Lu Chen and number 039, S letter. After Lu Chen's announcement was issued, the news that the major forces in Xiang world had released the demons quickly spread throughout Xiang world. In less than half a month, the people of Xiang world were divided into two factions. Some people thought that the top forces in Xiang world released the demons to resist the invaders of Tianchen world. The other group of people felt that no matter what happened, the top forces in Xiang world should not release the demon. They obviously wanted to break through to a higher level, so they colluded with the demon and became its lackeys. They would not release the demon in Xiang world. The common people are in charge. In the eyes of most people, releasing the demon is a heinous crime. What is the demon? It is a monster that feeds on monks and humans. It is the natural enemy of mankind. The top forces in the Xiang world actually released the demon. Are they crazy? It is they who have taken refuge in the demon. Release demons to fight off alien invaders? What a ridiculous reason! If the heavenly demon defeats and devours the alien invaders, the heavenly demon's power will become even more powerful. At that time, the entire human race in Xiang world will become the food of the heavenly demon. The alien invaders are still humans after all, and they will not regard humans as food. They would rather be ruled by the alien invaders than being imprisoned by the devil and used as blood food. For a time, the voices of crusade against the top forces sounded in the Xiang world. At the same time, Great Xia Dynasty, Underground Palace. Nangang Yuehua looked at the announcement in his hand, sneered, and then said, "This emperor of Daxia is really good at it, and he actually beat him up." Nangang Kinja said from the side at this time, he wants to annex the entire Xiang world without spending a single soldier. Hearing Nangang Kinja's words, Nangang Yuehua was slightly startled. Something suddenly occurred to her. Gong Gai Liangpeng told her at the beginning that invaders from other worlds would destroy Xiang world if they invaded it, so she agreed to Gong Gai Liangpeng and take the initiative to release the demon. But now think about it, if Emperor Xia really wanted to destroy Xiang world, would he still need to use this method? Couldn't he just lead Daxia's army and directly crush the major forces in Xiang world? Emperor Xia was able to kill the devil with one sword, and it was no problem to crush the major forces in the Xiang world. What Lu Chen was doing now was not like invading the Xiang world to destroy the Xiang world. What they were doing was more like competing for cultivation resources to control the Xiang world. If it had been known from the beginning that Lu Chen invaded Xiang world to compete for cultivation resources, Nangang Yuehua would never have agreed to release the demon together with Gongai Liangping. In Nangang Yuehua's eyes, there is an essential difference between destroying the Xiang world and controlling the Xiang world. At this time, Nangang Yuehua had already realized that she had obviously been deceived by Gongai Liangping. Thinking of this, Nangang Yuehua ignited the announcement in his hand directly with spiritual power, and it burned to ashes in an instant. Her eyes returned to the circular array in front of her again. Emperor Xia probably wants us monks in the 10,000 Dharma realm to leave the Xiang world on their own initiative. In this way, he can easily control the entire Xiang world. Speaking of this, Nangang Yuehua's expression was a little complicated. Others, Emperor Xia, had given them the opportunity to leave voluntarily. As a result, the world passage they built was still unable to exist stably. Nangang Kinja said at this time, if it really doesn't work, forget it. Although Nangang Kinja really didn't want to leave alone, the world passage they built couldn't take people with them at all. If they continued to drag it on, they wouldn't have built a stable world passage by the time Emperor Xia called, and they might want to escape by then. No chance. Nangang Yuehua fell into silence. She didn't want to just let it go. At this moment, a maid suddenly appeared in the stone room. She held 2 letters and said, "Your Majesty, Emperor Xia sent 2 letters, saying one is for you and the other is for Master Nangang." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Kinja were stunned at the same time. A letter to them? Why send them a letter? Nangang Yuehua then waved her hand, and the 2 letters in the maid's hands flew to her hands. She glanced at the 2 letters, which had 2 names on them. Nangang Yuehua handed the letter with Nangang Kinja's name to Nangang Kinja, and then immediately opened the letter to see what Emperor Xia had written to her. When she saw the contents of the letter, Nangang Yuehua frowned slightly, and the expression on her face became extremely serious. Seeing that Nangang Yuehua's expression was not very good, Nangang Kinja became even more curious about what was written in the letter, so she took the initiative to open the letter in her hand and glanced at the contents. This. Nangang Kinja was stunned after reading the first paragraph of the letter. This letter. It's actually a letter of confession. Now the 2 people realized that the Lu Chen they had met in Black Moon City was actually Emperor Xia, but he was just his puppet. No wonder they didn't notice Lu Chen's heartbeat when they first met him. They didn't think about the puppet body at first, because there was no such superb puppetry in this world. After Nangang Yuehua read the contents of the letter, he snorted coldly and clicked the letter directly. Then she looked at Nangang Kinja and saw that Nangang Kinja also had a stunned expression. Nangang Yuehua basically guessed what the content of her letter was. After Nangang Kinja read the letter, she did not burn it directly like Nangang Yuehua did. She looked up at Nangang Yuehua and asked, "What did he write to you?" Nangang Yuehua said, "From your expression, the letter he wrote to the 2 of us probably has similar contents. Emperor Xia wants me to marry him and be his woman, and promises that the entire Great Xia Dynasty will still be under my control in the future." After hearing Nangang Yuehua's words, Nangang Kinja couldn't help but chuckle. He really has a big appetite. He also wants me to marry him and be his woman. After Nangang Kinja finished speaking, the 2 fell into silence. No one spoke. The whole stone chamber became extremely quiet, and even the sound of breathing could be heard. If they could stay in this world, then they naturally didn't want to leave, but marrying Emperor Xia as a woman made them feel a little entangled. And they were not sure whether Lu Chen was telling the truth, or deliberately said so for some purpose to stabilize them and prevent them from escaping the Xiang world. If they just wanted to marry Lu Chen and become his women, it would be fine, but if Lu Chen wanted to use them as furnaces. At their level, cultivators no longer just look at faces. There are also lustful cultivators, but for most cultivators, they want to marry a woman, most likely for dual cultivation, or to use them as furnaces. Lu Chen, a strong man who can kill the devil with one sword, said he wanted to marry them, and they naturally couldn't believe it. They didn't want to be Lu Chen's furnace. Just as the two were silent, another maid entered the stone chamber. "Your Majesty, there is a person claiming to be the envoy of Daxia outside the palace asking for an audience." End of this chapter. Chapter 785. Does Emperor Xia take us for fools? After hearing the maid's words, Nangang Yuehua came back to her senses, and she immediately said, "What state is that person in?" The maid replied, "Only the realm of creation." Nangang Yuehua immediately said, "Bring him to the imperial garden to see me." "Yes, your Majesty." As soon as the words fell, the maid disappeared on the spot. After the maid left, Nangang Yuehua said, "Since we have sent an envoy here, let's take a look first. I want to see what Emperor Xia pays attention to." Speaking of this, Nangang Yuehua went directly to the imperial garden. Nangang Qinja was also curious about what Lu Chen planned to do, so she also went to the imperial garden. After the two women arrived at the imperial garden, not long after, the maid brought the so-called Daxia envoy to the imperial garden. When the Daxia envoy crossed the imperial garden, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja were stunned in the pavilion. When they came to their senses, the spiritual energy on their bodies was instantly released, and the expressions on their faces were extremely serious, as if facing a formidable enemy. They never thought that the so-called envoy from Daxia was actually Lu Chen himself. Wrong. Nangang Yuehua quickly realized that Lu Chen who entered the royal garden only had the cultivation level of the creation realm. It was obvious that he was not himself, or that he was not his true form. Seeing Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja being so nervous, Lu Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly, showing a smile, and then said, "Two fairies, there is no need to be so nervous. This is not the first time we have met." After once again confirming the state of Lu Chen in front of him, Nangang Yuehua asked, "Is this your puppet?" Lu Chen said, "Yes, I originally thought about letting the puppet come to see you, but I was not sincere enough, but I was worried that my true body would come directly to the Great Xia Dynasty, which would scare you too. If the two fairies feel that I am not sincere enough, I can come immediately." Nangang Yuehua said quickly, "No need. Emperor Xia was a being who could kill the devil with one sword. If he really came here, they would have no chance to escape." Nangang Qinja asked at this time, "I wonder how much of what Emperor Xia said in the letter is true and how false." They would definitely not completely believe Lu Chen's words about marrying them. They had already reached a state like Lu Chen's, how could they still marry a woman because of her beauty? Lu Chen must have a plan, but I don't know what he is planning. They doubted whether Lu Chen wanted to turn them into a furnace, or whether Lu Chen wanted to turn them into his playthings. Lu Chen replied at this time, "The contents of the letter are all from my heart. I really like the two fairies." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua sneered, "Does Emperor Xia treat us as fools? With Emperor Xia's strength, how can he fall in love with us if he doesn't have any woman he wants?" Lu Chen said with a smile, "You are right. In the Tianchen world, as long as I say a word, countless women will be willing to marry me, but I cannot marry every woman. I will only marry a woman who can make me fall in love. And the two fairies made me tempted." Nangang Yuehua said mockingly, "I'm afraid Emperor Xia has said this to many women." Nangang Qinja also said at the side, "Neither I nor Ziwang are little girls. Do you think we will believe what you say?" Lu Chen said, "I know you don't believe me. After all, at my level, talking about feelings does make people feel a little childish, but everything I say is true. As for whether the two fairies believe it or not, it depends on how the two fairies decide." I have also given you enough time to construct a world passage. If you want to leave, you can leave at any time. If you are willing to believe what I say, then after you marry me, Xiang world will be left to you two to take care of. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja were startled. They suddenly felt that they had understood Emperor Xia's true purpose. Emperor Xia asked the two of them to take care of Xiang world, which means that Emperor Xia will not stay in Xiang world for a long time, and he is probably not limited to ruling Xiang world. Only when there are enough worlds under his rule, will he be able to hand over the management of the world he conquered to others. Emperor Xia wanted to use political marriage to tie the two of them to his ship and let them help him manage the entire Xiang world, so that he could attack other worlds and continue his journey. If this is the purpose, it is entirely possible. No matter which world it is in, it is the same. The most high-end political alliances often only require the most primitive methods. Becoming Lu Chen's woman was tantamount to a political alliance. Although they could see that Lu Chen was probably serious, the two women were still a little wary of Lu Chen. After all, no one can say whether Lu Chen will go back on his words, and once they really choose to stay, they will be like fish on the chopping board, at the mercy of Lu Chen. Lu Chen saw that the two women fell into silence, so he continued, "Let's put it this way, if I wanted to force you to stay, then I would have forced you to stay on the day I killed the demon, and I will not let anyone send you a message later. For you guys. Even now, it is easy for me to keep you. The reason why I am so polite to tell you this is because I need you to be able to stabilize the entire Xiang world in the future. Conquering the Xiang world is just the beginning for me. My journey is to the Sea of Stars." After Lu Chen finished speaking, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja looked at each other. Indeed, with the strength of Emperor Xia who killed the demon with one sword, it was very easy for him to keep the major forces in the Xiang world on the day he killed the demon. He did not do it at that time, obviously letting them go back on purpose. He also let them back on purpose, and Lu Chen's clone could come to the outside of the palace of the Great Xia Dynasty without anyone noticing, so his original body could do the same. In other words, if he wanted to use tough means to keep them, it would be easy for him. Maybe Lu Chen's original body is already somewhere in the capital of the Great Xia Dynasty, but the two of them did not sense it. Thinking of this, the two women couldn't help but sweat on their foreheads. If they refused, it would be hard to say what Emperor Xia would do. But after Nangang Yuehua came to her senses, she took a look at Lu Chen's puppet. On the day when Lu Chen killed the demon, she didn't see clearly what Lu Chen's real body looked like. The puppet Lu Chen was handsome, but she didn't know if his real body was the same. Although at their level, the first thing they think about when looking for a Taoist partner is personal interests, but as the empress of the Great Xia Dynasty, Nangang Yuehua was still a little unwilling to marry an old man. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 786 Your puppet body looks the same as your real body? Seeing Nangang Yuehua staring at his puppet, looking like he was thinking about something, Lu Chen continued, "After you become my woman, I will give you the skills to restrain the power of the devil, and I will also teach you have a holy level technique." Upon hearing this, the two women were stunned. Holy level exercises. Emperor Xia has a holy level technique? In the entire Xiang world, the highest level martial arts are only earth level skills, and Emperor Xia actually possesses holy level skills. Being able to possess the holy level cultivation technique proves that Emperor Xia is definitely not just a world lord in the world next door. Although the two of them have never left the Xiang world, they are not completely ignorant of the outside world. After all, their ancestors probably came from another world. Their ancestors left a lot of information about other worlds, so they must know about other cultivation worlds. Rumor has it that even the Great Emperor has difficulty possessing holy level skills, and some heaven level skills are pretty good. But how could Emperor Xia, a realm master, possess holy level skills? If he really possesses holy level skills, it means that he is definitely not just a world lord, but also has a greater background behind him. Facing such a strong man with a strong background, Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinja both felt a deep sense of powerlessness in their hearts. At the same time, they were also extremely entangled in their hearts. That is a holy level technique. Moreover, Emperor Xia also said that he would teach them the techniques to restrain the power of demons. They were not sure yet whether Emperor Xia had any holy level skills, but they knew that Lu Chen must have a skill that could restrain the power of the demon. The reason they found Lu Chen's puppet was not because Lu Chen's puppet could restrain monsters, but they were deceived by Lu Chen and thought that Lu Chen's ability to restrain demonic energy was due to his physical condition. If they possess the technique that can restrain the power of heavenly demons, they won't have to be afraid even if they encounter demon cultivators or demons in the future. In the world of cultivation, besides the human heart, the most dangerous thing is the demon. Heavenly demons are not only found in the Xiang world. According to the historical records of their ancestors, other realms of cultivation also exist, and the higher the realm of cultivation, the more powerful heavenly demons exist. Even if they leave the Xiang world, they may encounter the demon again in the future. The technique that Lu Chen possesses to restrain the power of demons is very important to both of them, especially to Nangang Qinja, an evil cultivator. Nangang Qinja is an evil cultivator, but not a demon cultivator. She practices with blood energy, and blood energy is the thing that can easily attract demons. As long as there is a world with demons, demons may discover her existence as an evil cultivator at any time and come to her door. Just when Nangang Yuehua was still shocked by what Lu Chen said, Nangang Qinja's voice sounded next to her. Okay, I agree. She doesn't need the holy skills, but she must get the skills that can restrain the power of the demon. If she can get that skill, it will be worth it even if she loses her virginity and becomes Emperor Xia's woman. Moreover, she is an evil cultivator herself, and innocence is not very important to her. The older they get, the lower their moral sense. They have lived for thousands of years, and they no longer value their innocence. If they can exchange this thing they don't value for the skills they need, then for them, it is a loss of blood. Of course, there are certain risks in making this decision. No one can say for sure whether Lu Chen lied to them or not. It is also possible that Lu Chen's real purpose is just to use them as a furnace. But no matter what Lu Chen's purpose was, Nangang Qinja was willing to take a gamble on Lu Chen's exorcism skills. There is no way, as an evil cultivator, the demon cultivator and the demon are her biggest nemesis. If there is no way to restrain the demon cultivator and the demon, even if she escapes to other worlds, she will probably fall into crisis because of encountering the demon cultivator and the demon. If she encounters a demon cultivator and a demon again, she will have only two choices left, either to die or to become a demon cultivator, but she is not willing to become a real demon cultivator. Although she is a bad woman, her badness has a bottom line. Seeing that Nangang Qinja agreed, Lu Chen smiled slightly, and then his eyes fell on Nangang Yuehua. Your sister has agreed, how do you decide? Nangang Yuehua did not answer immediately, but asked, does your puppet body have the same appearance as your real body? Hearing Nangang Yuehua's question, he was slightly stunned. He did not expect that Nangang Yuehua would ask such a question. Generally speaking, the higher the level of monks, the more they value interests. Appearance is not a relatively important thing. So important. After coming back to his senses, Lu Chen replied, yes, my puppet body is copied from the original body. After hearing Lu Chen's answer, Nangang Yuehua felt relieved, as long as he was not particularly old or ugly. Who said she was sacrificing herself for profit, but she didn't want to be done by a very ugly man. Nangang Yuehua sighed slightly, and then said, okay, I agree. Seeing that Nangang Yuehua agreed, Lu Chen said with a smile, okay, I will come back to you in half a month, and I will announce to the public that the Great Xia Dynasty has decided to join the Great Xia Dynasty. Hearing what Lu Chen said, Nangang Yuehua thought to himself that this guy still had this idea. If he announced to the public that the Great Xia Dynasty had decided to take the initiative to join the Great Xia Dynasty, then other forces in the world would inevitably follow suit. A man who knows the times is a hero. Even the most powerful forces have chosen to surrender, so there is no need for other forces to persist. If they continue to persist, the Great Xia Dynasty will definitely use the excuse of releasing the demons to attack those forces. One thing leads to another. It seems that all this is political considerations in the eyes of Emperor Xia. Maybe Emperor Xia doesn't like them at all. He just wants to use them to control the Xiang world. Thinking of this, Nangang Yuehua felt much more comfortable. She thought that maybe Lu Chen didn't want to look down on her at all, but just treated her as a tool. In the future, she only needs to do things for Lu Chen and doesn't need to accompany him in double cultivation. Just when Nangang Yuehua was distracted, Lu Chen's voice came again, "I will go back first. If there is anything, you can send someone to Black Moon City to find me at any time, or you can come to Black Moon City in person." Nangang Kinja asked at this time, "Aren't you afraid that as soon as you leave, we will immediately build a world channel and escape from this world?" Lu Chen said, "If you are willing to give up the opportunity of the saint-level skills, then you can just escape from the Xiang world." After the voice fell, the puppet Lu Chen turned around and left the imperial garden. Seeing the back of the puppet Lu Chen leaving, the two women fell into deep thought. After Lu Chen's figure completely walked out of their sight, Nangang Kinja turned her head and looked at Nangang Yuehua and said, "What are you going to do?" Nangang Yuehua said, "If he really wants to do something to us, it's too late for us to escape from this world now. His purpose should just be to find someone to help him control the entire Xiang world." Nangang Yuehua has completely believed Lu Chen's words. She always believes that a person who can kill the demon with one sword, even if he has the skills to restrain the demon's power, his strength is likely to be above the God Transformation realm. For a cultivator above the God Transformation realm, it is easy to keep them. End of this chapter. Chapter 787. Chapter 787. My husband has called me, but I still want to quarrel with him. In Nangang Yuehua's view, since Emperor Xia had the power to easily keep them, but did not directly attack them, it proved that Emperor Xia really wanted two people who could help him control the Xiang world. The fact that Emperor Xia did not attack them directly was the greatest sincerity of Emperor Xia. Since Emperor Xia has shown the utmost sincerity and they don't want to leave the Xiang world, there is nothing wrong with cooperating with Emperor Xia. The world of cultivation is based on respecting the strong. Even if they surrender, they are not considered a loser. They just followed the rules of respecting the strong. What's more, Emperor Xia's background is very unusual. Following Emperor Xia is also a challenge for them. Opportunity. Let's not talk about whether they still have a chance to escape from this Xiang world. Even if they have a chance, they may not have such opportunities if they go to other worlds. After hearing what Nangang Yuehua said, Nangang Kinja said, "So, you also plan to stay and become his woman?" Hearing this question, Nangang Yuehua laughed, and then said, "How can a strong man like him lack beautiful women around him? He just gave us a name, and we are just his tools. Even if we marry him, he may not practice dual cultivation with us." Hearing what Nangang Yuehua said, Nangang Kinja also felt that it made sense. Emperor Xia most likely just needed two tools to control the entire Xiang world. Letting them marry him was just to give them suitable identity management. It's just the Xiang world. Thinking of this, Nangang Kinja frowned slightly. If this was the case, would it be possible for Lu Chen to pass on the so-called holy level skills to the two of them? If Lu Chen really only needs two tool men, then in Lu Chen's eyes, they are not Lu Chen's women, but more like his two maids. How could Lu Chen pass on the holy skills to two maids? Of course, what she cares about most is not the holy level skills, but the exorcism skills. Nangang Kinja thought to herself that it seemed that if she wanted to obtain the exorcism skills from Lu Chen, she would have to take the initiative. Otherwise, Lu Chen would probably just paint cakes for them and would not teach them the exorcism skills for a while. Thinking of this, Nangang Kinja made a bold decision in her heart. At the same time, Black Moon City, City Lord's Mansion. Ji Kaiyu's voice was still ringing in Ji Kaiyu's room, but as the bursts of excitement passed, the room gradually returned to calm. At this moment, Ji Kaiyu lay helplessly on Lu Chen's chest, her messy hair spread all over the bed. Lu Chen gently arranged Ji Kaiyu's hair and asked with a smile, "Do you still want to die in the future?" Hearing this question, Ji Kaiyu, who was immersed in the aftertaste, suddenly woke up. She actually. At first, she thought that Lu Chen would kill her after at most one day, and since they had already obtained her innocence, she would have no value. In the end, she didn't expect that Lu Chen, a liar, wouldn't let her go for more than half a month. Of course, she had already gone without food and would be fine if she didn't eat or drink for several years. She just needed to absorb the spiritual energy. So it's okay to not eat or drink for half a month. The key is that this bastard did that kind of thing to her for half a month. This was her first time contacting a man. This bastard had no sympathy for her at all. Also, maybe in the eyes of this dead liar, she is just a plaything, and she needs to be treated with compassion. Ji Kaiyu snorted coldly and said, "Do you think I will fall in love with you like this? What you do will only make me want to kill you even more." Lu Chen said, "But that's not what you said these days." Having said this, Lu Chen put his arms around Ji Kaiyu's waist, turned over, put his arms on both sides of her head, and looked down at her charming silky eyes. "Madam, my husband has shouted, why are you still arguing with me?" Ji Kaiyu bit her silver teeth and said fiercely, "I was forced to do that. There is absolutely no way I can be your Taoist companion." Lu Chen said, "I have no intention of letting you be my Taoist companion." As soon as these words came out, Ji Kaiyu was stunned, and then a feeling of grievance surged into his heart. Sure enough, in the eyes of this dead liar, she was just a plaything. He never intended for her to be his Taoist companion. Everything was just lies. Just exploiting from start to finish. Just when Ji Kaiyu was thinking this, Lu Chen continued, "There is a difference between a Taoist couple and a lady. In my eyes, you are my wife, not my Taoist partner. Taoist couples are mainly for dual cultivation, and I married you not for dual cultivation, but because I simply like you." Ji Kaiyu was stunned again, but she quickly reacted. She closed her eyes tightly to force out the fog in her eyes, then glared at Lu Chen fiercely and said, "Fancy words. No matter what you say, they can't change you. The truth that forced me." Lu Chen did not continue to dwell on this, but said, "By the way, I have some good news for you." Seeing Lu Chen suddenly change the topic, Ji Kaiyu snorted and said, "What good news can you have?" Lu Chen said, "Your Majesty and Nangang Kinja of Blood Rainbow Square plan to be loyal to me." This. Ji Kaiyu was stunned. She couldn't believe that Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Kinja would choose to join Lu Chen, an intruder from another world. With their cultivation and strength in the Wanfa realm, they can completely build a world channel and then leave this world. There is no need to rely on Lu Chen, an alien invader, right? And Lu Chen has been in his bed for more than half a month. How did he know that Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Kinja were going to rely on him? Wait. Lu Chen also has puppets. Ji Kaiyu instantly thought that Lu Chen could deal with things outside by controlling puppets. When she thought of this, some speculations appeared in Ji Kaiyu's mind. Could it be that when Lu Chen was with her in the puppet body, his real body was also in a woman's bed, entangled with a woman? When she thought of this, Ji Kaiyu's face became even uglier. No wonder this guy's puppet was lying in bed all day and night when he was with her, and often made some weird noises. Every time this guy said that his real body was breaking through, so he didn't have the mind to control the puppet. It turned out that this guy was doing that kind of thing. This dead liar. There really wasn't a single truth in his mouth. Seeing Ji Kaihuyu still glaring at him fiercely, Lu Chen asked with a smile, "Why, you don't believe it?" Ji Kaihuyu did not answer, but asked, "When you and I did this, did you also control the puppet to go to the Great Xia Dynasty at the same time?" Lu Chen did not think much about it and answered directly, "Yes." Ji Kaihuyu then asked, "So, when your puppet was with me, your real body might also be in a woman's bed?" This. Lu Chen did not expect Ji Kaihuyu to think of this all of a sudden. End of this chapter. Chapter 788. When I unify the Xiang world, I will make you a royal concubine. Seeing that Lu Chen was silent and did not immediately answer her answer, Ji Kaihuyu gritted her teeth. It was exactly as she thought. When Lu Chen's puppet was with her, Lu Chen's real body was indeed in a woman's bed. When she thought that Lu Chen's puppet was saying sweet words to her while the real body was doing those things to a woman, Ji Kaihuyu felt extremely uncomfortable. When Lu Chen was about to say something, Ji Kaihuyu cursed, "You are really a liar." As soon as the voice fell, Ji Kaihuyu couldn't help but shed tears from the corners of her eyes. She could accept that Lu Chen had other women, and now she could also accept that Lu Chen was an alien invader, but it was difficult to accept that Lu Chen was using a puppet to coax her, while the real body was moving with a woman. Seeing Ji Kaihuyu's pitiful appearance, Lu Chen felt a little ashamed. He did do such a thing, but he often cultivated feelings with his multiple wives and concubines, so he had long been accustomed to such a life. This kind of thing is very normal for him. Of course, he also understands that it is a bit difficult for Ji Kaihuyu, a woman who is new to sex, to accept this. Yun Xianxian couldn't accept that she had so many women at the beginning. Facing this situation, the only thing Lu Chen can do is to comfort her. Lu Chen then leaned over and blocked Ji Kaihuyu's red lips again, and then began to get busy, soothing her emotions. Ji Kaihuyu was stunned. She didn't expect Lu Chen to do that to her when she was sad. This bastard! Oh, forget it. With Lu Chen's comfort, Ji Kaihuyu soon forgot the sadness that Lu Chen brought to her. When she met such an unreasonable man, she couldn't get angry even if she wanted to. Once she got angry, this guy would deal with her. In the end, all the sadness in her heart turned into crying and shouting. After an unknown period of time, the room returned to calm again, and Ji Kaihuyu's eyes were misty again. Lu Chen once again let her lie on his chest, and then gently stroked her jade back with his hand to soothe her emotions. Ji Kaihuyu was too lazy to talk now, and too lazy to move, just lying there quietly. She felt that if she said a few more words, she was afraid that this tyrant would abuse her again. Lu Chen said at this time, "Maybe you can't accept that kind of thing, but I have many wives and concubines, and each of them needs my care. As a responsible man, how can I bear to let them stay alone in an empty room? And I can do this while helping them practice without delaying my own affairs. This is a win-win situation." Hearing Lu Chen's scumbag words, Ji Kaihuyu just snorted coldly and was too lazy to pay attention. She knew that she had completely fallen. Although this dead liar was a liar, his strength was too strong, and she couldn't bear it at all. She also figured it out now. This liar had already eaten her up, so what was the point of her still caring about his lies? Seeing that Ji Kaihuyu didn't speak, Lu Chen said, "If you don't speak, I will." Before Lu Chen finished speaking, Ji Kaihuyu hurriedly asked, "How are you going to deal with me?" Ji Kaihuyu clearly felt that Lu Chen wanted to do something bad to her again. This liar had a lot of tricks to deal with women. She had no temper for him now. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Look at what you said. What do you mean by deal with or not? You are my woman. Why should I deal with you? When I unify the Xiang world, I will make you a concubine. What do you think? Ji Kaihuya fell into silence again. She didn't know whether to be happy or sad. She knew that Lu Chen must have a lot of women. But then again, a concubine is also a relatively precious status in the emperor's harem, much better than ordinary concubines. This also shows that Lu Chen is actually quite good to her. However, what Ji Kaihuya didn't know was that Lu Chen's harem only had the titles of concubine and imperial concubine, and there were no ordinary concubines. At this time, Ji Kaihuya thought that Lu Chen gave her a very high status. Ji Kaihuya then asked, "Are Zai Huang and Nangong Fengzhu really going to pledge allegiance to you?" Lu Chen said, "Of course, they will come to Black Moon City to express their loyalty to me soon." Ji Kaihuya sighed slightly in her heart. She didn't expect that the largest dynasty and the largest evil cult in the Xiang world would be so easily forced to surrender by alien invaders. Lu Chen continued at this time, "You should have a good rest next and regulate the spiritual power in your body." Hearing this, Ji Kaihuya was about to say something, but suddenly she felt that the sealed spiritual power in her body exploded instantly, and a large spiritual sea appeared directly in her mind. Ji Kaihuya was stunned. She broke through. And it was the Yin-Yang realm. How could it be? She just slept with Lu Chen, and she jumped 5 realms from less than the 5th level of the creation realm to the Yin-Yang realm? This is too exaggerated. She has never heard that a Taoist couple can have such an exaggerated cultivation speed. While Ji Kaihuya was in a daze, Lu Chen hugged Ji Kaihuya's jade back, slowly turned over, and placed her body on the soft couch. Then he leaned over and blocked Ji Kaihuya's red lips again. Ji Kaihuya's body trembled slightly, thinking that Lu Chen was going to do that to her again. For a moment, her whole body was tense. However, at this moment, Lu Chen slowly stood up again. When their lips parted, he felt Ji Kaihuya's body trying to keep him. Lu Chen smiled and said, "I didn't expect that you are so greedy for pleasure. It's been more than half a month, and you still don't want me to leave." Hearing this, Ji Kaihuya instantly remembered her reaction just now. For a moment, she felt extremely hot all over. This dead liar! He played with her body and humiliated her. Ji Kaihuya wanted to say "get out if you want to," but when she thought that the consequence of saying this might be that Lu Chen would kill her again, she held back the words. She had no way to deal with Lu Chen, this rogue, and she also found that her body did form a certain dependence on him. Seeing Ji Kaihuya wanting to confront him but not daring to speak, with a face full of shame and anger, Lu Chen laughed out loud, but he didn't continue to tease her. Then he withdrew himself and went to the next room to take a simple bath, then changed his clothes and left the yard where Ji Kaihuya was. After Lu Chen left, Ji Kaihuya quickly got up from the bed, crossed her legs, and then felt the spiritual power in her body. After confirming that she had really broken through to the Yin-Yang realm, Ji Kaihuya's excitement did not subside for a long time. It was really a breakthrough, not her illusion. When did it become so easy to break through the creation realm? According to her original cultivation progress, it would be difficult for her to reach the Yin-Yang realm without 500 years. As a result, she only took half a month, and she was unconscious. Obviously, all this was Lu Chen's credit. When Ji Kaihuya thought that it was the liar who helped her improve her cultivation, her inner emotions became more complicated. Not only did Lu Chen deceive her, but he was also an alien invader. Logically, she was his enemy and they should not be together. If Lu Chen was just an ordinary cultivator, perhaps when she knew Lu Chen's identity as an alien invader, their fate would have ended. End of this chapter. Chapter 789. Do you want me to help you practice? When Ji Kaihuya thought of how Lu Chen used all kinds of tricks on her after forcibly occupying her body, she gnashed her teeth in anger. This liar was so skilled, he didn't know how many women he had harmed, and he didn't know how many wives and concubines he had in his harem. Alas, this might be the catastrophe she had to go through in her life. Besides, Lu Chen was going to give her the status of a concubine, so she had nothing to say. Not only did he let her break through to the yin-yang realm, but he also gave her the status of a concubine. In addition, Lu Chen himself gave her the burial demon art and a saint-level technique, which was already a great opportunity for her. Such an opportunity was completely worth exchanging for the innocence of her body. How many women wanted to exchange their bodies for such an opportunity but didn't have such an opportunity? Ji Kaihuyu murmured, "It's come to this point. Whether it's a plaything or a furnace, I accept it." Having received so many benefits from Lu Chen and been tainted with such a big cause and effect, she could only accept it even if Lu Chen was an invader from another world. When she thought of this, Ji Kaihuyu's body became hot again. The scene of Lu Chen bullying her kept replaying in her mind. Ji Kaihuyu hurriedly used her power to control her restless heart. Soon, the news that Great Xia Dynasty and Sui Hongfang surrendered to Tianchen world spread throughout the Xiang world. This made people very puzzled. Zhuang and the owner of Sui Hongfang not only did not leave Xiang world, but also defected to the Great Xia Dynasty. Zhuang and the owner of Sui Hongfang at least have the strength of Wanfa realm. It is very easy for them to leave Xiang world. Some Wanfa realm cultivators of some forces have taken the initiative to open the world channel and escape. Not only did they not escape, but they chose to defect to Emperor Xia. Just when people were curious about why they did this, the temporary court of the Great Xia Dynasty in Black Dragon City issued a notice that after the Xiang world stabilized, Emperor Xia would marry Zhuang and the owner of Sui Hongfang. After this news was announced, people instantly understood why the Purple Emperor and the owner of the Blood Rainbow House did not run away. It turned out that others had already agreed to marry the Emperor Xia. This also made some smart people understand the twists and turns in this. The Emperor Xia did not choose to use force against the entire Xiang world at the first time, but chose to marry a woman from the Xiang world. This shows that the Emperor Xia did not intend to destroy this world. He may want to control this world more. As long as they take the initiative to surrender to Daxia and have a good relationship with the manager chosen by the Emperor Xia, Daxia will not use force against them. In less than a few days, hundreds of forces have approached the Blood Rainbow House and the Great Xia Dynasty, and some larger forces have also taken the initiative to send envoys to the Black Moon City, wanting to take the initiative to pledge allegiance to the Emperor Xia. Once the trend of surrender is formed, it will be basically no difficulty to take over the Xiang world. What Lu Chen has to consider next is how to manage the entire Xiang world. His idea is very simple. He has no plan to let the Daxia court directly manage the Xiang world for the time being. To be honest, this is a bit unrealistic, because the Xiang world is too big, and it is already very difficult for the Daxia court to manage the Tianchen world. Moreover, he will definitely not only occupy the Xiang world in the future. If he wants to obtain the fortune of other worlds in the future, he will definitely occupy more worlds. He plans to temporarily adopt a similar method of enfeoffment, and choose one or two spokespersons to help him manage the worlds he occupies. Of course, in order to avoid his spokespersons betraying him, the spokespersons he chooses must be his women. When there are enough strong people around him in the future, he will create a dynasty, and then all the worlds he occupies will be managed under one dynasty. A few days later, the Lord's mansion of Black Moon City. Lu Chen was sitting in the pavilion looking at the map of Xiang world. At this time, Ji Kaihuyu entered the pavilion. Seeing Lu Chen looking at the map intently, she stood outside the pavilion, did not enter the pavilion, did not speak, but just silently watched Lu Chen. For this man who took away her innocence and whom she loved and hated, Ji Kaihuyu's inner emotions were extremely complicated, and now she didn't know what to say to him. Just when Ji Kaihuyu was distracted, Lu Chen's voice came, "Kaihuyu, are you okay?" Ji Kaihuyu immediately said, "No, nothing." She did have something to do just now. She heard that Lu Chen wanted to marry Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia. She wanted to ask Lu Chen if it was true. But when she thought of what Lu Chen had done to her, she felt that Lu Chen was a lustful man. It was not strange at all that he was attracted to the beauty of Nangang Yuehua and Nangang Qinjia. Besides, she had no status in front of Lu Chen, and she had no right to question Lu Chen. Of course, this made her feel very uncomfortable. Although she knew that this guy had many women, this guy had just arrived in the Xiang world and took away her innocence, and he immediately thought about other women. She wondered if she would be alone in the empty room after she really entered Lu Chen's harem, just like those concubines in the secular dynasty, who might not be favored by the emperor once in their lifetime. Hearing Ji Kaiyu's hesitant tone, Lu Chen looked up and glanced at Ji Kaiyu, who lowered her head slightly, not daring to look him in the eye. Lu Chen's mouth corners slightly raised, and then teased, "What's wrong? Do you want me to help you practice, but you're embarrassed to ask?" Hearing Lu Chen's teasing words, Ji Kaiyu snorted coldly, "I'm not that mean." After the words fell, Ji Kaiyu turned around and left angrily. She had only been tormented by Lu Chen for more than half a month. How could she think of that kind of thing again? Lu Chen was obviously humiliating her. Even if she had no choice but to become Lu Chen's plaything, she still had dignity in her heart. Ji Kaiyu had just taken a few steps when Bai Qingqing appeared in the yard. Seeing Bai Qingqing wearing a black and gold armor, Ji Kaiyu frowned slightly. She often saw Bai Qingqing these days. Although Bai Qingqing's identity seemed to be just a maid, the soldiers around Lu Chen were very polite to Bai Qingqing. She doubted whether this so-called personal maid also had an affair with Lu Chen, the liar. Just when Ji Kaiyu was thinking this, Bai Qingqing's voice came, "Your Majesty, Tianji Pavilion sent someone to ask for peace." Hearing this, Ji Kaiyu was stunned. Tianji Pavilion was also going to surrender to the Great Xia Dynasty? It seems that the Xiang world is really going to fall into the hands of this tyrant. When she thought of this, Ji Kaiyu felt an inexplicable sadness in her heart. After all, she grew up in Xiang world and had deep feelings for Xiang world. Although she herself has become Lu Chen's woman now, from her perspective, she is still very uncomfortable. After hearing Bai Qingqing's words, Lu Chen snorted and laughed, and then said, "The demon was released thanks to the Tianji Pavilion. How dare they send people to ask for peace?" The Tianji Pavilion took the initiative to unite all the major forces to break the seal of the demon and release the demon. This is an unforgivable crime for most people in Xiang world. Lu Chen wants to win over the hearts of the people in Xiang world, so he naturally cannot exempt the Tianji Pavilion from responsibility. He must always pull a force out to take responsibility. As the mastermind, the Tianji Pavilion must bear the guilt of releasing the demon. However, Lu Chen decided to see what the pavilion master of the Tianji Pavilion wanted to do. End of this chapter. Chapter 790, Tianji Pavilion and number 039, S surrender. Lu Chen said at this time, "Let the messenger of Tianji Pavilion come in." "Yes, Your Majesty." After Bai Qingqing finished speaking, she turned around and left the yard. Seeing that Bai Qingqing had left, Ji Kaiyu also quickened her pace and left the yard. Not long after, Bai Qingqing and several people wearing grey yin-yang patterned Taoist robes entered the yard. After everyone entered the yard, they immediately saluted to Lu Chen and said, "The criminals of Tianji Pavilion pay their respects to Your Majesty." Lu Chen glanced at these people and found that they were all elders of Tianji Pavilion. Seeing so many elders, Lu Chen chuckled and said, "Are all the elders of your Tianji Pavilion here? You came to me on your own initiative, aren't you afraid that I will catch you all in one fell swoop?" Hearing this, Xiao Yuanjia, the chief elder of Tianji Pavilion, immediately stood up and said, "We are guilty people. If Your Majesty wants to get rid of us and give justice to the world, we have nothing to say." But, speaking of this, Xiao Yuanjia paused for a moment, and then continued, "But, the sinner has something to say, and I hope your majesty can listen to the sinner's words. Lu Chen's eyes returned to the map on the stone table, and he said expressionlessly, "Go ahead." Seeing that Lu Chen did not attack them immediately, Xiao Yuanjia was happy and hopeful, so he immediately said, "The release of the demon was all decided by Gonggai Liangpeng alone. We opposed it at the beginning, but Gonggai Liangpeng was arbitrary. Okay, plus he has won over all the major forces in Xiang world, we are powerless and can't stop him." Lu Chen said, "Oh? You want to put all the blame on the pavilion master of your Tianji pavilion? If I guess correctly, your pavilion master should have escaped from Xiang world, right?" Xiao Yuanjia said hurriedly, "Your Majesty, it is our fault, we will never shirk it. As a member of Xiang world, we failed to stop Gonggai Liangpeng, and we are still unforgivable. And it was not until Gonggai Liangpeng left that we found out that Gonggai Liangpeng was actually a demon envoy. We have followed a demon envoy for so many years and helped the evil. No matter how your majesty treats us, we have no regrets. It's just that we really don't dare to bear the bad reputation of releasing the demon." Hearing Xiao Yuanjia's words, Lu Chen raised his head and glanced at Xiao Yuanjia again. Name, Xiao Yuanjia. Identity, Tianji Pavilion Elder, Tianji Pavilion Master Candidate. Strength, 9th layer of Yin-Yang Realm. Loyalty, 96. Xiao Yuanjia has a loyalty of more than 90 to him, and it seems that he really wants to be loyal to him. Lu Chen said, "Gonggai Liangpeng ran away, and you Tianji Pavilion don't bear the bad reputation. Do you want me to bear the bad reputation?" As soon as the voice fell, a pressure was released from Lu Chen's body. In an instant, Xiao Yuanjia and the other elders of Tianji Pavilion all knelt on the ground. A strong pressure pressed on them, making it difficult for them to even breathe. Xiao Yuanjia gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Your Majesty, it is our responsibility to misjudge people. We are willing to accept any punishment, but Gonggai Liangpeng is powerful. Even if we tried to stop him at the beginning, we were powerless." Lu Chen said lightly, "Powerless? You didn't make any effort, so of course you were powerless. If you had tried your best to stop Gonggai Liangpeng from releasing the demon, you would not have come to ask me today, and I would not hold you responsible." Hearing Lu Chen's words, Xiao Yuanjia and others fell silent. They did think it was inappropriate to release the demons to fight against the invaders from other worlds, but the Tianji Pavilion has always been a one-man show for Gonggai Liangpeng. Even if they verbally opposed it, they did not dare to take any actual action. Lu Chen removed the pressure at this time, and Xiao Yuanjia and others instantly felt extremely relaxed, breathing heavily. Lu Chen continued to look at the map on the stone table and said, "I can indeed absolve some of you Tianji Pavilion of guilt with just one sentence, but why should I do this?" Hearing this, Xiao Yuanjia instantly understood what Lu Chen meant, and hurriedly said, "Your Majesty is in his prime, and he will definitely not stop at the Xiang world. If your Majesty wants to attack other worlds in the future, our Tianji Pavilion can help your Majesty deduce the strength and plans of enemies in other worlds." Lu Chen thought about it. If these people in the Tianji Pavilion could deduce the specific situation of other worlds, then he could spend less time collecting intelligence. For example, when attacking the Xiang world, collecting intelligence took up too much time. As a result, after they entered the Xiang world, they only killed a demon, and the Xiang world almost fell into his hands. If he could judge the overall strength of a world earlier, he could send out troops earlier, capture that world earlier, and absorb the world's luck earlier. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said, "Your calculation ability doesn't seem to be very good. You don't even know that your pavilion master is a demon envoy. Even if I save you, I'm afraid you may not be able to play a role." This. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Xiao Yuanjia and others were stunned. For this point, they really had no way to refute Lu Chen. After a while, Xiao Yuanjia explained, "Your Majesty, cultivators with strong deduction ability can block the secrets of heaven. Gong Gai Liang Peng is stronger than all of us combined. It is normal that we can't deduce that he is a demon envoy. Lu Chen said, "Oh? Really? Then I can't block the secrets of heaven. You deduce me and see what I will do next. If you can figure it out, you've passed." After Lu Chen finished speaking, the elders of the Tianji pavilion looked at each other, as if they were communicating something with their eyes. Seeing that they did not respond immediately, Lu Chen said, "What? You don't have the ability?" Xiao Yuanjia said, "To be honest with you, Your Majesty, we have worked together to deduce everything about Your Majesty when we came to Black Moon City, but Your Majesty is a man with great luck and is protected by the origin of the universe, so we can't deduce everything about Your Majesty." Lu Chen snorted and laughed and said, "You are really a group of useless people." Hearing Lu Chen's words, everyone in the Tianji pavilion felt extremely sad. It seemed that they were doomed. When they worked together in the Tianji pavilion to deduce the origin of Emperor Xia, they suffered a serious backlash. At that time, they had already guessed their fate, so they planned to fight to the death and took the initiative to come to Black Moon City to be loyal to Emperor Xia. Now it seems that they have failed. Just when everyone thought that Emperor Xia was going to get rid of them, Lu Chen said calmly, "I can give you another chance. You can figure out the origin of Nangang Qinjia, the owner of the Blood Rainbow Square, and what she plans to do next. If you can't even figure this out, then you can go back and wait for death." As soon as these words came out, the elders of the Tianji pavilion surrounded the city as if they had grabbed a life-saving straw. The next moment, a yin-yang magic circle appeared under their feet. End of this chapter. Chapter 791 Nangang Qinjia arrives. After about a quarter of an hour, the yin-yang array under the feet of everyone in Tianji pavilion gradually stopped. Originally, only one person was needed to deduce a person's origin and what he would do in the future, but in order to pass Lu Chen's test and to make the deduction result more accurate, they directly chose to work together to deduce it. Soon, the deduction results appeared in their minds. Xiao Yuanjia said to Lu Chen, "Your Majesty, the deduction results are out." Lu Chen lowered his head and looked at the map in front of him and said without raising his head, "Tell me." Xiao Yuanjia said, "Nangang Qinjia is also a person of great luck, and she also has the blessing of the origin of the universe. However, we can also detect some of her information. According to our deduction, we found that she is the biological sister of the same mother of the Purple Emperor. And she is on her way to Black Moon City at the moment." After hearing Xiao Yuanjia's words, Lu Chen thought to himself that it seemed that these guys from Tianji Pavilion still had something. Nangang Qinjia's score in the system can reach 90, so naturally she cannot be an ordinary person, so it is normal for her to have great luck. Xiao Yuanjia and the others were able to deduce the identity of Nangang Qinjia, a very lucky person, and also deduce her actions, which was pretty good. Lu Chen continued, "Since you have all deduced that she is on her way to Black Moon City, then you can continue to deduce what she is doing in Black Moon City." This. Xiao Yuanjia's clone froze on the spot. Just as Lu Chen was about to say something, Xiao Yuanjia quickly explained, "Your Majesty, Nangang Qinjia is a person of great luck, and she has many causes and effects. It is impossible for us to deduce her true thoughts from such a existence. If we force the deduction, we are likely to be counterattacked by the origin of the universe and die suddenly." Lu Chen thought for a moment and then said, "In that case, I won't embarrass you anymore. You can go back." Seeing that Lu Chen asked them to go back, Xiao Yuanjia and others thought that Lu Chen looked down on their deduction ability and asked them to go back and wait for death. Everyone quickly knelt down on the ground again. Seeing this, Lu Chen knew that they might have misunderstood him, so he added again, "I can let go of some people in Tianji Pavilion, but the force of Tianji Pavilion is not allowed to continue to exist. After you go back, then disband Tianji Pavilion, and if there are talented disciples, they can bring Black Moon City." After hearing what Lu Chen said, everyone suddenly realized that this was what Emperor Xia meant. They thought Emperor Xia looked down on their abilities and asked them to go back and wait to die. Since they are not allowed to go back and wait for death, everything is easy to say, and since the former master of Tianji Pavilion did such a heinous thing as releasing the demon, Tianji Pavilion really should not exist. Even if Tianji Pavilion is preserved, it will inevitably be cursed by the people of this world. These elder disciples of Tianji Pavilion will not feel comfortable. It is better to disband Tianji Pavilion and completely surrender to the Great Xia Dynasty. After all, Emperor Xia was a man of great luck. Following Emperor Xia would be a great opportunity for them. Xiao Yuanjia immediately led the elders and said to Lu Chen, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Lu Chen continued, "Your Tianji Pavilion should not be a local force in Xiang world. You must have some knowledge of other worlds. If you have historical materials from other worlds, bring them to Black Moon City." Xiao Yuanjia said quickly, "Your Majesty, please rest assured. After the guilty people return, all the historical materials in the Tianji Pavilion library will be sent to Black Moon City immediately." As soon as Xiao Yuanjia finished speaking, Bai Qingqing appeared in the courtyard again. "Your Majesty, the master of Sui Hongfeng wants to see you." Upon hearing this, Lu Chen waved to Xiao Yuanjia and the others, "If you have nothing to do, you can leave." Xiao Yuanjia and others quickly stood up and said in unison, "Sinners, please retreat." After Xiao Yuanjia and the elders of Tianji Pavilion left, Lu Chen said to Bai Qingqing, "Let her come in." "Yes." Bai Qingqing turned around and left the courtyard, and a moment later brought Nangang Qinja into the courtyard where Lu Chen was. The moment Nangang Qinja entered the courtyard where Lu Chen was, she felt a huge pressure. This pressure was not realm pressure, but a special impurity. The power in her body seemed to be imprisoned. Especially when she saw Lu Chen in the pavilion, the oppression became even more obvious. Lu Chen lowered his head and looked at the map in front of him and said, "If Master Nangang is so brave and dares to come to Black Moon City, he is not afraid of me. What to do to you?" Nangang Qinja came back to her senses and said, "If His Majesty really planned to do anything to me, Your Majesty would have done it long ago and would not have waited until now." Lu Chen continued to ask, "Tell me, why did you come to see me?" Having said this, Lu Chen looked up at Nangang Qinja who was not far away. Nangang Qinja was wearing a long red dress today, with her hair pulled high, looking extremely dignified and noble. Her deep eyes and cold cheeks also showed an arrogant and cold look, which made people want to conquer her. Looking directly at Lu Chen's eyes, the spiritual power in Nangang Qinja's body suddenly became restless. She felt as if she was being targeted by a 10,000-year-old cosmic beast, and her forehead could not help but sprout dense cold sweat. Seeing that Nangang Qinja didn't answer immediately, Lu Chen continued to ask, "What's wrong? Is it some kind of unspeakable request?" Nangang Qinja came back to her senses, her heart skipped a beat, and she immediately said, "I want to learn Your Majesty's exorcism skills right away." Hearing this, Lu Chen said without hesitation, "It's not impossible, but my skills will only be passed on to my woman, I just don't know if you are ready." Nangang Qinja was slightly stunned, and then she said, "As long as Your Majesty is willing to teach me the exorcism skills, I will be Your Majesty's person tonight." Lu Chen chuckled. "Just tonight?" It seems that Nangang Qinja is a little too naive. Lu Chen then said, "There is no need to wait until tonight, I can teach you the burial demon technique now." After the voice fell, Lu Chen waved his hand, and he and Nangang Qinja appeared in a room the next moment. Nangang Qinja was slightly stunned. Although she was ready to sacrifice herself when she came, she didn't expect that she would lose her innocence just after arriving in Black Moon City. This is too fast. Lu Chen was sitting on the couch at this time, looking at Nangang Qinja who was standing in the middle of the bedroom in a daze with a playful look. "What's wrong, don't you want to learn the burial demon technique? Why are you still in a daze?" Nangang Qinja reacted and looked up at Lu Chen who was sitting on the couch. Lu Chen's real body looked almost the same as the puppet body, but his real body was more handsome, more elegant, and more masculine. Nangang Kinja thought to herself that it was not impossible to have a night of passion with such a strong man. She was originally an evil cultivator, and she didn't have so many moral shackles in her heart. However, she had always been the high and mighty owner of the Blood Rainbow Square in the past. Suddenly, she was asked to serve a man as a servant. She didn't know what to do. End of this chapter. Chapter 792 Ji Kaiyu, Shameless. Lu Chen once again took a look at Nangang Kinja, who was standing in the middle of the bedroom. Just standing there, she was already a beautiful scenery. The cold and evil nature, the curved figure, the voluptuous waist, and the slender legs looming under her red skirt all stimulated Lu Chen's brain. Seeing Lu Chen staring straight at her, the spiritual energy in Nangang Kinja's body became more restless. She tried to calm down the restlessness in her heart, and then slowly walked to the edge of the soft couch. As soon as she walked in front of Lu Chen immediately stretched out his hand and pulled her into his arms. Nangang Kinja subconsciously wanted to resist, but when she thought that this was the only way to obtain Lu Chen's exorcism skills, she suppressed her instinct of resistance. Lu Chen immediately placed her on the soft couch, then leaned behind her and pressed her buttocks. A faint fragrance was released from Nangang Kinja's body, instantly stimulating the violent desire in Lu Chen's heart. After sensing something was wrong, Nangang Kinja turned her head slightly to see what Lu Chen was doing, but she found that Lu Chen's eyes were red, as if he wanted to eat her. Seeing this scene, Nangang Kinja's heart began to tremble. She never thought that as an evil cultivator, one day she would be afraid of men. Of course, the most important reason is that Lu Chen seems to have been releasing a force that impurities her body's blood, which makes her have no idea of resistance in front of Lu Chen, and her heart is full of fear of Lu Chen. What Nangang Kinja didn't know was that power was the power of the demon-burying art. Nangang Kinja is an evil cultivator, so the demon-burying art is extremely suppressive to Nangang Kinja. This makes Nangang Kinja still have no idea of resistance in front of Lu Chen, even if she has never drank Dragon Phoenix tea. Seeing Nangang Kinja's cold expression with a hint of timidity when she turned to look at him, Lu Chen couldn't bear it anymore. He leaned down directly and blocked Nangang Kinja's red lips. Ahoy! It was the first time for Nangang Kinja to be in such close contact with a man. For a moment, her mind went blank. Then, the breath of a mature man rushed into her nasal cavity, making the spiritual power in her body become even more restless. After an unknown amount of time, Nangang Kinja vaguely seemed to hear a tearing sound. Before she could realize what it was, a strange force poured into her body. After Nangang Kinja let out a muffled groan, she found that the force had completely suppressed the blood energy in her body. At this time, countless blood energy emanated from her body, and the blood energy was running away like crazy as if it had encountered a natural enemy. Feeling that her strength was declining, Nangang Kinja suddenly became extremely frightened. She did not expect that Lu Chen's body had such strong restraint on the blood in her body. Nangang Kinja immediately struggled, but Lu Chen did not give her such a chance. At this time, Lu Chen started to get busy. Another strange feeling instantly occupied Nangang Kinja's brain. Nangang Kinja was originally frightened because of the decline in strength and loss of blood and wanted to struggle away, but this strange feeling instantly made her obsessed and made her no more thoughts of breaking free. She was an evil cultivator herself, with corrupt attributes. Under Lu Chen's methods, Nangang Kinja was immersed in the joy that Lu Chen brought to her. In this way, despair, fear, and constant happiness filled Nangang Kinja's heart, causing Nangang Kinja to completely fall into the abyss. A few days later, the news of the dissolution of Tianji Pavilion spread throughout the Xiang world. Before Tianji Pavilion was disbanded, it took the initiative to issue an announcement, placing most of the responsibility for releasing the demon on Tianji Pavilion. He also said that all this was the conspiracy of the pavilion master Gong Gai Liang Peng. Gonggai Liangpeng was not from this world, so he released the demon and tried to destroy the world. Tianji Pavilion also pointed out in the announcement that thanks to Emperor Xia's timely appearance, if Emperor Xia had not appeared in Xiang world in time, the entire Xiang world might have been reduced to purgatory. It was Emperor Xia who saved Xiang world. Even Tianji Pavilion said such things, and some forces in Xiang world that were unwilling to surrender realized that they had no hope, so they also took the initiative to send envoys to Black Moon City, intending to be loyal to Emperor Xia. However, those envoys have not seen Emperor Xia for half a month. It is said that Emperor Xia is currently in retreat and has no time to see them for the time being. This made those forces even more nervous. They were not sure whether Emperor Xia was really in seclusion or was plotting something. An inexplicable pressure made all the forces in Xiang world breathless. At this moment, in the yard of Lu Chen's bedroom, Ji Kaihuyu stared straight at Lu Chen's room and couldn't help snorting coldly. Hey, retreat, this guy's way of retreat is really special. She didn't expect that Lu Chen had been practicing dual cultivation with her for more than half a month, and then he soon got together with Nangang Qinjia, and they started dating again half a month later. She now wonders if Lu Chen is also an evil cultivator. How can anyone regard dual cultivation as the main method of cultivation? Of course, Ji Kaihuyu also knew in her heart that she was just a little jealous. After all, Lu Chen only got tired of her in the first half of the month. All kinds of sweet words, all kinds of love words, and all kinds of tricks made her want to stop. Not long after, Lu Chen's trick was used on Nangang Qinjia again. At this time, Nangang Qinjia's voice kept coming from the room. Your Majesty, please spare my life. My lord. Ah. Lu Chen, call me husband. Husband. Ugh. I'm going to die. Ji Kaihuyu cursed again, you have no sense of shame. After she finished speaking, Ji Kaihuyu was so angry that she turned around and left the yard and went back to her room to practice. She was afraid that she would eavesdrop any more and she couldn't stand it. After leaving the yard, Ji Kaihuyu comforted herself in her heart. Anyway, Lu Chen promised to give her the status of a concubine, so she didn't need to care about other women. She just thought that Nangang Qinjia was just Lu Chen's plaything. Thinking of this, Ji Kaihuyu felt much better. It was unknown how long it had passed. A ray of sunlight shone into the house, and the golden light sprinkled on the reflective water droplets. At this time, Nangang Qinjia was still suppressed by Lu Chen. Half a month ago, Nangang Qinjia thought that she only needed one night to exchange for Lu Chen's exorcism skills. As long as she obtained the exorcism skills, she could consider whether to escape from this world. Unexpectedly, before she got the exorcism technique, she was played around by Lu Chen for half a month, and even most of her blood and energy had dissipated. However, she still had no way to resist the feeling Lu Chen brought her, and she was addicted to it and could no longer extricate herself. At this time, she knew in her heart that she would never be able to get rid of Lu Chen again. The feeling of fear and happiness intertwined had already made her deeply trapped. Even if Lu Chen did not give her the exorcism technique now, she was willing to stay with this man. End of this chapter. Chapter 793, Decline in Strength? Are you sure your strength has dropped? Lu Chen gently stroked Nangang Qinjia's hair and stared at her red pupils. At this time, Nangang Qinjia's face was glowing with a charming red light, and there were some tears in her starry eyes. Lu Chen suppressed his body, stared at her and said, Nangang Fengzhu is really unique. Hearing this, Nangang Qinjia felt humiliated, but she did not refute Lu Chen's words. She just asked, Hey. It's been half a month. When does your Majesty plan to teach me the exorcism skills? In order to serve your Majesty, a lot of blood and energy in my body have been lost, and my strength has dropped significantly. If it continues, my strength may drop to the yin-yang realm. Hearing Nangang Qinjia's words, Lu Chen smiled and said, strength has dropped? Are you sure your strength has really dropped? Do you want to feel your physical condition again? Nangang Kinja looked at Lu Chen in confusion. Most of her blood and energy had been lost. As an evil cultivator who cultivates with blood and energy, when blood and energy are lost, her strength will naturally decline. Do I need to sense this myself? Although she thought so in her heart, Nangang Kinja still circulated her spiritual power and sensed her physical condition. After all, she had been tormented by this tyrant for half a month, and it was right to check her physical condition. Being beaten by this tyrant, maybe her blood and chi were gone, and there were problems in other places. As a result, Nangang Kinja just circulated her spiritual power and found something wrong. Her consciousness became extremely clear, and her spiritual power surged. Although her blood and chi were lost, her realm did not drop. Not only did her realm not drop, but it was improved, and she was even about to break through the realm of transformation. How is this possible? Because she had been indulging in the happiness that Lu Chen brought her, she didn't know that her body was in a dual cultivation state with Lu Chen, so she didn't know about the improvement of her strength. It can be said that she was completely confused by Lu Chen. This was a huge surprise for her, and she also found that although the spiritual power that Lu Chen infused into her had a strong suppressive effect on her blood, it did not cause any bad effects on her body. On the contrary, the internal injuries she had suffered from absorbing blood in the past have been repaired. I didn't expect this to be so useful to her. Nangang Kinja soon realized that it was not because of the sex that had such an effect on her, but because of what Lu Chen did to her, so her body had such changes. Thinking of this, Nangang Kinja immediately looked into Lu Chen's eyes and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Lu Chen smiled faintly, raised his hand and tidied the hair beside her ear. "What are you thanking me for? You are my woman, and I naturally can't watch you suffer from the erosion of blood." At this point, Lu Chen directly taught Nangang Kinja the burial demon Zhu and King Mu Chong Sheng Gong. As two golden lights entered Nangang Kinja's brain, the key points of the burial demon Zhu and King Mu Chong Sheng Gong were also known to Nangang Kinja. When Nangang Kinja felt the effect of King Mu Chong Sheng Gong, she was stunned. She asked why Lu Chen tortured her so violently, but she didn't feel any pain. It turned out that it was because of King Mu Chong Sheng Gong. So, her internal injuries were also cured because of King Mu Chong Sheng Gong? Is this the holy level technique? In order to resist the erosion of blood and chi over the years, she tried all kinds of ways to avoid going astray and becoming a demon cultivator, but everything was in vain. Unexpectedly, her chance was in the hands of an alien invader. Then Nangang Kinja felt the effect of the burial demon technique again. After feeling the suppression of her blood and chi by the burial demon technique, Nangang Kinja also understood why she was suppressed in front of Lu Chen. It turned out that the effect of the burial demon technique was not only for demon cultivators, but also for evil cultivators like her. No wonder she couldn't help but feel very scared when Lu Chen was infusing spiritual power into her body. Seeing that Nangang Kinja was distracted, Lu Chen said, "The burial demon art has a suppressive effect on all evil forces. If you practice the burial demon art, the spiritual power in your body is likely to conflict with the blood. Whether to practice the burial demon art is up to you." Hearing this, Nangang Kinja fell silent. The reason why she came to Black Moon City was for the burial demon art, so that when she encountered a demon or a demon cultivator in the future, she would not be restrained by the demonic energy. It can be said that she practiced the burial demon art in order to better continue her evil cultivation path, but now the burial demon art has conflicted with the blood. If she chooses the burial demon art and gives up the blood path, wouldn't it go against her original idea? But if she doesn't practice the burial demon art, let alone encountering a demon in the future, even if she encounters a demon with slightly stronger strength, she will only be restrained. And even if she has nothing to do with the demon, if she encounters a cultivator who knows a similar burial demon art, she will be suppressed. What to do? Should she give up the blood path? After thinking about it, Nangang Kinja decided to practice the burial demon art first. Then Nangang Kinja closed her beautiful eyes and began to circulate the burial demon art in her body. As a milky white spiritual power flowed through her body, the blood and energy in her body also dissipated rapidly. When she saw that the blood and energy she had accumulated over the years was about to disappear, Nangang Kinja hurriedly stopped practicing. She was still reluctant to give up the path of blood and energy. After hesitating for a moment, Nangang Kinja began to practice King Mu Chong Sheng Gong. She planned to practice King Mu Chong Sheng Gong first to see if King Mu Chong Sheng Gong could completely offset the erosion of blood and qi on her body. Although Lu Chen had cured her internal injuries, the erosion of blood and qi on her body would always exist. As long as she absorbed the blood and qi of others, the blood and qi would continue to erode her body. Nangang Kinja thought to herself that if King Mu Chong Sheng Gong could completely resist the erosion of blood and qi, even if she encountered a demon cultivator or a heavenly demon in the future, she might be able to use King Mu Chong Sheng Gong to suppress the negative effects of blood and qi on her. In this way, the heavenly demon and the demon cultivator would not be able to use the magic qi to control the blood and qi in her body, and she would no longer have to be afraid of demon cultivators with similar strength to her. As a green spiritual power wandered in Nangang Kinja's body, Nangang Kinja suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. Soon, the green spiritual power was mixed with the blood and qi. When the two were mixed, Nangang Kinja was surprised to find that the erosion of blood and qi on her body had indeed disappeared. For a moment, Nangang Kinja felt extremely excited. She didn't expect that she would succeed. Great! She doesn't have to give up this path. Just as Nangang Kinja thought about this, another idea came to her mind. Then she tried to run the burial demon technique, and soon a milky white spiritual power appeared in her body. Then, the milky white spiritual power also mixed with the blood, but this time the blood was not dispelled. The white spiritual power, the green spiritual power of King Mu Chong Sheng Gong, and the red blood formed a stable force. Seeing that she succeeded, Nangang Kinja's delicate body couldn't help trembling, and the muscles all over her body couldn't help but contract. End of this chapter. Chapter 794 Nangang Yue Hua and number 039, S concerns. Lu Chen didn't expect that Nangang Kinja could be so excited when practicing martial arts, which made him almost unable to control the restless spiritual power in his body. Just when Lu Chen was about to say something, Nangang Kinja suddenly opened her eyes, her ruby-like eyes staring straight at Lu Chen. From now on, you are my master. This is my life essence and blood. As she spoke, a blood mass emitting red light appeared on Nangang Kinja's forehead. In the world of cultivation, as long as you get the monk's life essence and blood, you can control the life and death of a monk. Lu Chen naturally knew about this method, but he had never used this method against anyone, because usually after obtaining someone else's life essence and blood, the other person's identity would be no different from that of a slave. Even when dealing with his subordinates, Lu Chen would not let them hand over their life essence and blood. Lu Chen did not expect that Nangang Kinja would take the initiative to hand over her life essence and blood, which surprised Lu Chen. After Lu Chen was stunned for a moment, he asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" Nangang Kinja said, "The opportunity you gave me is too great, and it is difficult for me to repay it in this life." Although Nangang Kinja was an evil cultivator, she was also a principled evil cultivator. The opportunity given by Lu Chen involved too much cause and effect. She knew that she was completely tied to Lu Chen. Moreover, the first time she was attacked by Lu Chen, she fell deeply into it and could not extricate herself. This also proved from the side that Lu Chen was the person she was destined to be. Lu Chen thought to himself that as an evil cultivator, it was normal for his brain circuit to be different from that of normal people, and there was no need for him to think too much. Lu Chen then smiled and said, "You have to think clearly, after you give your life essence and blood to me, you will be my slave girl from now on." Nangang Kinja said expressionlessly, I have already thought about it clearly. Lu Chen said, okay, since you insist on this, then I will help you. Then Lu Chen collected Nangong Kinja's natal essence and blood. The moment Lu Chen received Nangong Kinja's natal essence and blood, Nangong Kinja suddenly felt as if her whole body had become a part of Lu Chen, and in her sea of consciousness there is an extra statue of Lu Chen. But what makes her feel even more strange is that although she has handed over her life essence and blood, she does not feel enslaved at all. It stands to reason that the monk who handed over his life essence and blood would feel the pressure from his master all the time, but after she handed over her life essence and blood, Lu Chen's pressure in front of her completely dissipated. Her body suddenly felt lighter. How is this going? Just when Nangong Kinja was confused, Lu Chen's voice came into her ears, I didn't expect Master Nangong to like this kind of tune. Then I have to make Master Nangong Fang happy. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Nangong Kinja was extremely confused. What does this kind of tone mean? What does have fun mean? Before Nangong Kinja could react, her body was turned over, and the next moment, Lu Chen started on his journey again. Nangong Kinja finally understood what Lu Chen meant by having fun. At the same time, Great Xia Dynasty, Royal Palace. Nangong Yuehua, wearing a phoenix robe, stood by the window of the palace, looking at the moon in the sky, with an extremely indifferent expression, as if she was thinking about something. At this time, a maid entered the palace and said, Your Majesty, the master of Sui Hongfang has gone to Black Moon City. Hearing this, Nangong Yuehua frowned slightly, and she said why Nangong Kinja suddenly disappeared. At first, she thought that Nangong Kinja didn't want to be Emperor Xia's woman, so she escaped from the world alone. Unexpectedly, instead of running away, she went to Black Moon City. She could only go to Black Moon City to find Emperor Xia. What are you doing with Emperor Xia? Is it possible that she wants to become Emperor Xia's woman? And then get more cultivation resources from Emperor Xia? Thinking of this, Nangong Yuehua suddenly realized that although Nangong Kinja was her sister, Nangong Kinja was an evil cultivator. In order to improve her strength, an evil cultivator could not do anything. Even handing over her innocent body is nothing to Nangong Kinja. I am afraid that Nangong Kinja went to Black Moon City this time because she really wanted to use her body in exchange for cultivation resources from Emperor Xia, especially Emperor Xia said that he had obtained the holy level skills. This is not a good sign. Although she and Nangong Kinja are sisters, the royal family has no feelings. If Nangong Kinja obtains the holy skills one step ahead and her strength becomes stronger, Emperor Xia will most likely focus on training her in the future. On Nangong Kinja's body. From now on, Nangong Kinja has the final say in the entire Xiang world. No. We can't let her succeed. Thinking of this, Nangong Yuehua said directly to the maid, it will be announced to the public that I am going into seclusion and all subsequent court meetings will be cancelled. Before the maid could respond, Nangong Yuehua's body disappeared on the spot. Although she still didn't trust Emperor Xia in her heart, Nangong Kinja's initiative to go to Black Moon City also worried her and gave her a deep sense of crisis. She had to go to Black Moon City to see what Nangong Kinja was doing in Black Moon City, and whether she had sacrificed herself to obtain the holy level skills that Emperor Xia said. Soon, Nangong Yuehua arrived above Black Moon City. When she arrived at the gate of the Black Moon City Lord's mansion, a woman in black and gold armor said to her, Your Majesty has known your arrival, please follow me. Hearing this, Nangong Yuehua followed without hesitation. She was still a little nervous and was always on guard against the surroundings. Under the leadership of Bai Qingqing, Nangong Yuehua entered the yard where Lu Chen was currently. As a result, as soon as Nangong Yuehua entered the yard, she felt the strong blood and the breath of Nangong Kinja. And some strange voices kept coming out of the room. Your Majesty, I know I was wrong. Good brother, don't. As a person who has lived for thousands of years, how could Nangong Kinja not know what was happening in the room? Hearing that it was Nangong Kinja's voice, Nangang Yuehua frowned slightly. She didn't expect that Nangang Qinja really took the initiative to find Emperor Xia to dedicate himself for the saint-level skills as she thought. The cold-blooded female devil who killed countless people in the past has now become a howling slave girl in front of Emperor Xia. It's really ridiculous. Although she mocked Nangang Qinja in her heart, Nangang Yuehua also understood that she would become Emperor Xia's woman sooner or later. Nangang Qinja has already started this. If she doesn't become Emperor Xia's woman, Emperor Xia will definitely choose to support Nangang Qinja in the future. Although Emperor Xia may not be very interested in women, whether they are husband and wife is also an important factor affecting a man's decision. High-end political alliances only need the most primitive way of combination. What Nangang Yuehua didn't know was that when Nangang Qinja came to Black Moon City, she also thought that Lu Chen was not very interested in women. She only needed to accompany him for one night and the matter would be settled. Although she did get the saint-level skills and the burial demon technique as she wished, she was completely involved. But she didn't feel the slightest sadness, because all this was her initiative. However, she couldn't understand why Emperor Xia was so keen on that kind of thing. Even though she was almost at the spiritual transformation realm, she couldn't resist Lu Chen's various methods. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 795 Nangang Yuehua arrives. After Nangang Yuehua entered the courtyard, she kept sitting in the pavilion. At this time, Ji Kaihuyu also entered the courtyard. Ji Kaihuyu was startled when she saw that Nangang Yuehua had also arrived. She originally thought that it had been almost a month and it was time to end, so she came to check on the situation, but she didn't expect that another woman had arrived. Ji Kaihuyu sighed slightly in her heart. She had misjudged the person at first. She thought Lu Chen was a serious monk, but she didn't expect that this guy turned out to be a pure lustful person. But it's useless to think about it now, after all, she has become his woman. Ji Kaihuyu came to the pavilion and said to Nangang Yuehua, "Meet your majesty." Nangang Yuehua glanced at Ji Kaihuyu and found that Ji Kaihuyu had broken through to the yin and yang realm, and her body exuded a holy light, and her temperament became more earthly than before. Nangang Yuehua instantly understood that Ji Kaihuyu had probably become Lu Chen's woman. Lu Chen had been with Ji Kaihuyu when he first came to Black Moon City, and Ji Kaihuyu had seized the opportunity. Nangang Yuehua said, "The Great Xia Dynasty has surrendered to Emperor Xia. From now on, I am no longer the emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty. You don't need to pay this big gift." Ji Kaihuyu was about to say something when Bai Qingqing came to the pavilion with a teapot, poured a cup of tea for Ji Kaihuyu and Nangang Yuehua each, and then said, "Your Majesty asked, the Purple Emperor is busy with everything, so why did he think of coming to Black Moon City?" Nangang Yuehua once again took a look at the maid in black gold armor in front of her. The woman was extremely beautiful, with a cold face, like a cold fairy. Such a person was actually just a maid to Emperor Xia. After taking a look at Bai Qingqing, Nangang Yuehua said to the room, "I heard that my ignorant sister came to Black Moon City, so I came to take a look to prevent her from causing trouble to His Majesty." As soon as Nangang Yuehua finished speaking, Lu Chen's voice came directly from the room, "Hui! Zai Huang, don't worry, your sister is very sensible and has not caused me any trouble at all." At this time, Nangang Qinja was lying on the soft couch, listening to Nangang Yuehua's voice outside, feeling inexplicably proud. She was smarter and knew to take the initiative to come to Black Moon City to find Emperor Xia. Although Nangang Yuehua also came, Nangang Yuehua came one step later than her after all. Only. Nangang Qinja turned her head slightly at this time and looked at the tyrant behind her with tearful eyes. Although she was willing to degenerate and indulge in this kind of thing, she clearly felt that her brain was getting more and more blurry. If this continued, her brain would be broken. Seeing Nangang Qinja's pitiful look, the fire deep in Lu Chen's heart was rekindled, and he continued busy with his own affairs. Nangang Yuehua was about to say something when she heard Nangang Kinja's howling coming from the room again. At this time, Nangang Yuehua felt very embarrassed. She didn't know what to do now. Although she had decided to sacrifice herself, Nangang Kinja was still in Lu Chen's room at this moment. She can't go in at this time. But it seems inappropriate for her to stand here. What can she do standing here? Hear them two howl? After an unknown amount of time, Nangang Yuehua seemed to hear Lu Chen let out a long sigh, and then Lu Chen's voice came again, "If Zai Huang has nothing else to do, go back first." Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua was stunned. Go back? This is not possible. She came here to devote herself and obtain the holy level skills that Lu Chen mentioned. Now that she has obtained nothing, she just goes back and Nangang Kinja takes the opportunity to ascend to power. From now on, Nangang Kinja may have the final say in the entire Xiang world. Nangang Yuehua frowned slightly, and then said, "Your Majesty, the surrender documents of the Great Xia Dynasty have been drawn up and will be delivered in a few days. Since I have surrendered to your Majesty, from now on I am no longer the Purple Emperor, but His Majesty's woman. As His Majesty's woman, she should naturally stay by His Majesty's side and serve His Majesty." This. Seeing Nangang Yuehua being so proactive, Lu Chen instantly guessed what she was thinking. It seemed that Nangang Yuehua, like Nangang Kinja, wanted to get the skills from her as soon as possible. This is the most real world of cultivation. In order to cultivate resources, monks would rather give their bodies to others to play with. Just when Lu Chen was thinking about whether to bring Nangang Yuehua in, Nangang Kinja turned to look at Lu Chen and said feebly, "Your Majesty. Your Majesty, let her serve you, the slave family has taken care of you. Can't live anymore." Lu Chen thought that after staying in Black Moon City for so long, it was time to unify the entire Xiang world. Then he slowly pulled away and said to Nangang Yuehua outside, "Okay, then you can stay, Xiao Bai, and you can arrange a room for her." Bai Qingqing said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Immediately afterwards, Bai Qingqing said to Nangang Yuehua, "Please come with me." Nangang Yuehua did not continue to stay in the yard and left the yard directly with Bai Qingqing. She did not want to continue listening to Nangang Kinja's howling. After Lu Chen got up, he washed up and went directly to the study. He once again summoned the generals to hold a military meeting and prepared to advance to the capital of the Chu dynasty. While waiting for the generals to arrive, Lu Chen turned on the system prompt. Last time, when he took away Ji Kaiyu's innocence, he received a system reward, but he glanced at it and found that it was a reward for the skills, so he didn't care too much, and then he focused all his energy on tormenting Ji Kaiyu. Later, when he came out of the room, he forgot that he had a system reward. After opening the system prompt bar, 2 text box prompts appeared in front of Lu Chen. "Congratulations to the host for getting a wife and concubine, and reward the heavenly skill Tian Li Ju. Congratulations to the host for getting a wife and concubine, and reward the heavenly skill Hun Dun Zhu Mo Gong." Lu Chen immediately brought up these 2 skills, and the next moment, the contents of these 2 skills appeared in Lu Chen's mind. Lu Chen immediately tried to practice it. As the thunder attribute spiritual power rushed in his body, Lu Chen suddenly felt that all the cells in his body became active, and the speed of absorbing spiritual energy became faster. The next moment, Lu Chen's fingertips shot a lightning bolt at the ground, and the lightning directly shot a big pit on the ground. For a while, the whole study was full of dust. Lu Chen waved his hand quickly and cleared all the dust in the room. At this time, his attention was focused on the Chaos Demon Slaying Art. He found that the Chaos Demon Slaying Art and the Burial Demon Art had many similarities. The Chaos Demon Slaying Art had almost all the contents of the Burial Demon Art. It can be said that the Chaos Demon Slaying Art is an advanced technique of the Burial Demon Art. Lu Chen thought to himself that the Earth-level Burial Demon Art had such a strong restraint on the demon cultivators. If he practiced the heaven-level chaos demon slaying art, wouldn't the demon cultivators be restrained more in front of him in the future? Those demon cultivators and demons should not be ignorant of life and death and come to trouble him. Thinking of this, Lu Chen then tried to practice the chaos demon slaying art again. After a while, the generals of Daxia came to the study. Lu Chen immediately stopped practicing and began to arrange military tasks for them. End of this chapter. Chapter 796 The Mysterious Lady of Heaven. The current war dragon army relies on flying boats for combat. With the speed of flying boats, it can reach the capital of the Great Xia Dynasty in less than a day. Lu Chen believes that the emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty is a smart man and knows what to do at this time. If the emperor of Chu knows what's good for him, then all the royal family members of the Great Xia Dynasty can survive, but if the emperor of Chu insists on resisting, then the only thing that awaits the Great Xia royal family is destruction. After Lu Chen arranged the military action, he planned to go to Nangang Yuehua's room to see Nangang Yuehua, but at this time, a Jinyue soldier entered the study and said, "Your Majesty, the elders and disciples of the Tianji Pavilion have arrived in Black Moon City." After Xiao Yuanjia dealt with the affairs of the Tianji Pavilion, he immediately brought the elders and some outstanding disciples of the Tianji Pavilion to Black Moon City. After hearing what the Jinyue soldier said, Lu Chen raised his hand and was about to give an order when a maid entered the study and said, "Your Majesty, the Grand Elder of Tianji Pavilion wants to see you." Lu Chen put his hand down and said, "Forget it, let Xiao Yuanjia come in." Yes. Soon, Xiao Yuanjia came to the study. "The criminal greets your Majesty." Lu Chen said, "Don't call me a criminal from now on. You are no longer members of Tianji Pavilion, and the release of the demon has nothing to do with you from now on." Xiao Yuanjia said quickly, "Yes, your Majesty." Lu Chen continued, "Since you have already joined my army, I cannot let you sit idle and waste your abilities. I plan to create a new institution called Si Tianjian, and you are the first director of Si Tianjian. The main responsibility of Si Tianjian is to deduce the secrets of heaven and deduce the crises that the Xia army will encounter in advance. Although Xiao Yuanjia and other people in Tianji Pavilion cannot deduce the life of the Son of Destiny, it is not a big problem to predict the dangers that the Xia army may encounter with the Xia army as the target." After hearing Lu Chen's words, Xiao Yuanjia knelt on the ground with great excitement and said, "Thank you, your Majesty. I will definitely live up to your expectations." Lu Chen then continued, "Did you bring the historical materials of Tianji Pavilion?" Xiao Yuanjia replied, "Your Majesty, I brought them all, and they are still on the flying boat." Lu Chen said, "Take me to see it." Xiao Yuanjia immediately said, "Your Majesty, please follow me." Immediately afterwards, under the leadership of Xiao Yuanjia, Lu Chen came to a flying boat of Tianji Pavilion. The cabin of the flying boat was filled with countless scrolls and books, most of which were about exercises. Lu Chen was not very interested in those exercises. He mainly wanted to see if there were any records about other worlds in the historical materials of Tianji Pavilion. Then he said to Xiao Yuanjia, "Which of these books are about other worlds?" Xiao Yuanjia replied, "Your Majesty, the scrolls on the last row of bookshelves are about other worlds." Lu Chen glanced at the scrolls. Those scrolls were either made of bamboo or animal fur scrolls. It can be seen that Tianji Pavilion was founded very early in this world. At that time, there was no paper in Xiang world. Lu Chen then came to the last row of bookshelves, picked up a scroll, and read it carefully. After reading the contents on the scroll, Lu Chen was slightly surprised. It turned out that the so-called Tianji Pavilion was not just a force in Xiang world. The founder of Tianji Pavilion in Xiang world came from a higher-level cultivation world and was a disciple of Tianji Pavilion in the higher-level cultivation world. That disciple came to Xiang world to found Tianji Pavilion with a mission, but only he knew what the mission was. Unfortunately, the first pavilion master of Tianji Pavilion had limited talent, and he died soon after because he had been spying on the secrets of heaven for many years. Then Lu Chen looked through more scrolls and gradually understood some of the situations of Tianji Pavilion. Tianji Pavilion is a huge force in the universe, and there are branches of Tianji Pavilion in many worlds. According to the records of the first pavilion master of Tianji Pavilion in Xiang World, Tianji Pavilion seems to be looking for someone. When the first pavilion master of Tianji Pavilion came to Xiang World, his master told him something, but he didn't write it down, as if he couldn't let too many people know. Lu Chen laughed, which was in line with the style of those fortune tellers, pretending to be mysterious. He wrote down the mission of Tianji Pavilion, but didn't write it in full, so why did he write these things? Seeing that Lu Chen looked a little unhappy, Xiao Yuanjia asked cautiously, "Your Majesty, if there is a problem with these scrolls, I will have them destroyed immediately." Lu Chen came back to his senses and put the scroll in his hand back on the bookshelf. "It's just some historical records, what can be wrong with it?" While speaking, Lu Chen took another scroll from another bookshelf and opened it again to read. When he saw the content on this scroll, Lu Chen fell into deep thought. This scroll recorded that the actual person in charge of the Tianji Pavilion was not the pavilion master of the Tianji Pavilion, but the saint of the Tianji Pavilion, also known as the Tianji Girl. The scroll recorded that the Tianji Girl's deduction ability was so strong that she could see what would happen in the previous era and the next era. Lu Chen was extremely shocked. So terrifying? Is this Tianji Girl a person who surpasses the emperor? However, the scroll then mentioned that Tianji Girl had such ability, but she would not easily deduce things in other eras, because the backlash brought by deducing other eras might make her disappear. The disappearance here was not death, but disappearing directly out of thin air. Everything about her in the world would no longer exist, and only she knew the result of the deduction, and she could not tell others about things in other eras. Just when Lu Chen was absorbed in reading, the last row of words on the scroll suddenly made Lu Chen speechless. "The above content is all hearsay, and I also heard it from my master." Lu Chen then rolled up the scroll and put it back on the bookshelf. The first pavilion master of Tianji Pavilion in Xiang World was really boring. What was the point of recording the rumors? Then Lu Chen read more scrolls, and half a day passed unknowingly. Lu Chen glanced and found that there were still many scrolls on the bookshelf. Although many of the contents recorded in these scrolls were just rumors, they also made him understand more about this universe. This enriched his worldview in this world, which was quite useful. Lu Chen then said to Xiao Yuanjia, "Move all these historical materials to the Black Moon City Lord's mansion." Xiao Yuanjia immediately said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Then, Lu Chen changed his shape and left the flying boat directly and came to the courtyard where Nangang Yuehua was. At this moment, Nangang Yuehua stood in front of the window of the room, looking up at the flying boats of the War Dragon army flying towards the capital of the Great Xia Dynasty in the distance, as if thinking about something. The next moment, she felt a breath appear in the room. She turned her head and found that it was Lu Chen who came. Nangang Yuehua immediately said, "Greetings, Your Majesty." Nangang Yuehua said this reluctantly and saluted reluctantly. After all, she was also an empress. She had always been high above in the past, and others saluted her. Now she had to salute another emperor. For a while, her identity was a little difficult to change. Lu Chen smiled slightly, "You don't have to be polite, Purple Emperor." After the voice fell, Lu Chen glanced at Nangang Yuehua's data card. It turns out that Nangang Yuehua really came for the saint-level technique, but this is only a secondary purpose. Nangang Yuehua's real purpose is to compete with Nangang Qinja for the control of this world. End of this chapter. Chapter 797 Master, why are you here? Lu Chen was not surprised at all about the purpose of Nangang Yuehua's arrival. Nangang Yuehua finally became the emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty. She had already fallen in love with the taste of power and naturally did not want anyone to compete with her for the control of the next Xiang world. Lu Chen took a look at Nangang Yuehua at this time. Nangang Yuehua was wearing a red long dress, her hair was scattered around her waist, and she had a high bun on her head. She looked extremely gentle and dignified, and she exuded a noble temperament, which made people want to know her in depth. I have no intention of destroying the Xiao dynasty. The Xiao dynasty can still continue to exist, and you are still the empress of the Xiao dynasty. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Nangang Yuehua was stunned. She originally thought that Lu Chen was going to dissolve the Xiao dynasty and then reintegrate the world, and her position as emperor would no longer exist. Unexpectedly, Lu Chen had no intention of dissolving the Xiao dynasty at all. Lu Chen continued, after I unify the entire Xiang world, I will divide the Xiang world into two, with one part of the land and power incorporated into the Xiao dynasty, and the other part of the power incorporated into the Sui Hongfang. Then, we will form a cultivator alliance. Your sister will be in charge of this alliance, and you will continue to be in charge of the Xiao dynasty. Nangang Yuehua frowned slightly. She instantly saw Lu Chen's idea. Lu Chen divided the world into two and divided it to rule it. He wanted her to fight with Nangang Qinja, and then he could control the entire Xiang world. Nangang Yuehua herself is the emperor, and she still understands the emperor's mind. Since Lu Chen said so, no matter what she did, she could only control half of the Xiang world. But this is enough for her. Although the previous Xiao dynasty was powerful, it did not have the ability to control half of the Xiang world. After the expansion of the land and power of the Xiao dynasty, she will have more power. Although she will be restricted by Lu Chen is a strong man after all, and people like Lu Chen will definitely not stay in the low-level cultivation world forever. Once Lu Chen left, she would still be the one who had the final say in the Xiao dynasty. So she would not lose out by trading her body with Lu Chen. Nangang Yuehua asked at this time, when does His Majesty plan to let me sleep with you? Lu Chen showed a playful smile, why are you two sisters so anxious? Nangang Yuehua did not explain anything, but said calmly, if His Majesty needs me to sleep with you, you can notify me at any time with the Emperor's order of the Xiao dynasty. I am still innocent and have never been involved in male beauty. Generally, women with power will keep some male favorites, but Nangang Yuehua's focus in the past has always been on cultivation, and she is not very interested in male beauty. Moreover, there are many contradictions within the Xiao dynasty. Many people are staring at her, waiting for her to make a mistake. She dare not keep male favorites and indulge in male beauty at any time. Lu Chen said, I know what you are thinking. You want the saint-level technique. Nangang Yuehua said calmly, since this is a deal, I naturally have something to ask for. Lu Chen smiled and said, you are right. The saint-level technique is what I promised you. I will give it to you when the time comes. In addition, I have already passed the saint-level technique to your sister. Hearing this, Nangang Yuehua was slightly stunned. Nangang Qinja actually got the saint-level technique of Emperor Xia so quickly? Is it true? Nangang Qinja came earlier than her for more than half a month, right? Just this half a month of service can make Emperor Xia trust her with the saint-level technique? Nangang Yuehua asked curiously, Your Majesty, aren't you afraid that she will escape from this world directly after getting the saint-level technique? Lu Chen smiled and said, she took the initiative to give me her life essence and blood. This. Nangang Yuehua suddenly felt a little confused. She knew that Nangang Qinja offered herself to him in order to get the saint-level skills to become stronger, but there was no need for Nangang Qinja to do this to show her loyalty, right? That was her life essence. Once she handed over her life essence, Nangang Qinja's life would be controlled by Emperor Xia from now on. Emperor Xia wanted her to die at a thought. Why was Nangang Qinja so stupid? Did she really want to? Nangang Yuehua really couldn't understand Nangang Qinja's behavior. At least for her, even if she was threatened with her life, she would never hand over her life essence. In her opinion, if she handed over her life essence to others, she would be no different from a slave, or more accurately, a puppet. In the future, whatever Emperor Xia wanted Nangang Kinja to do, Nangang Kinja would have to do it. Crazy. Nangang Kinja was completely crazy. In order to become stronger, she actually took the initiative to sell herself as a slave. Seeing Nangang Yuehua frowning and looking extremely serious, Lu Chen continued, "Of course, I am not implying that you also need to hand over your life essence and blood. For me, your life essence and blood are of no use. Even if you don't give me your life essence and blood, I will teach you the holy level technique. After a while, I will also return your sister's life essence and blood to her." At this point, a ball of golden light shot out from Lu Chen's forehead, and Lu Chen continued, "This is the burial demon technique. After practicing this technique, the spiritual power in the body can restrain the demonic energy and the power of the demon." As soon as the voice fell, the golden light entered Nangang Yuehua's forehead. After Nangang Yuehua sensed the content of the burial demon technique, she was slightly surprised. Emperor Xia dared to give this technique to her before she got her body? She was not like Nangang Kinja, who had her life essence in his hands. She could leave this world at any time if she wanted to. Lu Chen said at this time, "Okay, I have something to do. Let's do it today. You can try to practice the burial demon technique first." As soon as the voice fell, Lu Chen's body disappeared on the spot. He planned to go to the capital of Dachau with the Zhanlong army. As an emperor with troops, he couldn't always hide in the back and scold women. If he stayed in the back all the time, he might as well not come to this world. At the same time, Tianchen World. In the cold palace, a woman in white plain clothes was meditating on the soft couch. At this time, a cold voice suddenly appeared in the room. Hearing this voice, Yun Xianxian suddenly opened her eyes. The next moment, snowflakes flew in the room, and after a while, these snowflakes gathered together to form a human body. The person who came was Yun Qingshu. She already knew that Lu Chen led his troops to the Xiang world. This was an opportunity for her, an opportunity to contact Yun Xianxian alone. Seeing that it was Yun Qingshu, Yun Xianxian immediately became extremely nervous. She also guessed at the beginning that after Lu Chen left the Tianchen world, her master would come to her directly while Lu Chen was away. Although Yun Xiangxian's face was still cold, she was already panicking in her heart. "Master! Master, why are you here?" Yun Qingshu said lightly, "Why don't you welcome me?" End of this chapter. Chapter 798, You have changed a lot since leaving Suanya Palace. Yun Xianxian asked back, "Master, do you intend to take advantage of Emperor Xia's absence to directly destroy your disciple's body? In order to eliminate this stain on your disciple?" Yun Qingshu said indifferently, "I don't have the habit of breaking agreements." Speaking of this, Yun Qingshu came to the table in the bedroom and sat down, then glanced at Yun Xianxian. "You have changed a lot since leaving Suanya Palace." Although Yun Xianxian still exudes a cold temperament, it is obvious that she has a little more charm of a wife. Seeing Yun Xianxian become like this, Yun Qingshu's inner emotions are still a bit complicated. After all, Yun Xianxian is her own clone. What Yun Xianxian said is not wrong. For her, Yun Xianxian is indeed a stain. If Yun Xianxian had been ruined by another man, she would probably have directly destroyed Yun Xiangxian's clone, but the person who occupied Yun Xiangxian's body was Lu Chen, a person who might have come from the ancient era. For such a person, even if Yun Xianxian is a stain, she is willing to keep Yun Xiangxian's stain for the sake of interests. After all, Yun Xianxian is the bridge connecting her and Lu Chen. And she vaguely feels that Lu Chen is not just as simple as the person in the ancient era. Her consciousness tells her that Lu Chen is very much like an old friend of hers. If Lu Chen is really the old friend she knows, let alone Yun Xiangxian's clone becoming Lu Chen's woman, even if she and Lu Chen have done that kind of thing, she will not care at all. Yun Xianxian said, Master, you didn't come here today to talk to me about this, did you? Yun Qingshu said, you seem to be very hostile to me. I created you, do you think you have the right to be hostile to me? Yun Xianxian said coldly, Master is right, I am just a clone created by you, you can make me disappear with just a thought, how dare I be my enemy? As soon as Yun Xianxian finished speaking, Yun Qingshu's body suddenly disappeared. Yun Xianxian was slightly stunned. When Yun Xianxian came back to her senses, Yun Qingshu suddenly appeared in front of her and pressed her down on the couch. Yun Qingshu raised her delicate jade hand, pinched Yun Xiangxian's chin, and stared at her jade face. Why? Do you want to disappear so much? If you want to die, I can help you. Hearing Yun Qingshu's cold words and feeling the cold air emanating from her body, Yun Xianxian was stunned and didn't dare to speak at all. After all, Yun Qingshu is the original body, and the pressure emanating from her body is not something Yun Xianxian can resist, and the will of the original body is not something the clone can resist. Seeing that Yun Xianxian did not continue to speak, Yun Qingshu looked at Yun Xiangxian's purple pupils and continued, when I created you, I did not intend to merge with you, nor did I intend to destroy you. I created you as a clone to prepare for the catastrophe in advance. I have survived the catastrophe of the last era. I may not be able to avoid the catastrophe in this era, so I hope that there is a clone who can live on my behalf. But I didn't expect that I gave you independent consciousness, but it harmed you. In Yun Qingshu's view, if she hadn't given Yun Xianxian independent consciousness, Yun Xianxian would not have fallen in love with Lu Chen, nor would she have fallen like she is now, and even be jealous of her original body. Hearing Yun Qingshu's words, Yun Xianxian was stunned again. In her mind, there came to her the scene of Yun Qingshu getting along with her in Suanya Palace. Although Yun Qingshu was very strict with her, he helped her to become stronger from beginning to end. And she rarely forced herself to do things she didn't like. It was only when Lu Yanghua took a fancy to her fairy body that Yun Qingshu locked her up. But now it seems that Yun Qingshu did this to delay the maturity of the fairy body, so that Yun Qingshu would have an excuse to keep her in Suanya Palace. It can be said that Yun Qingshu has always taken care of her like a mother, never treating her as a clone, nor letting her clone do things that the original body feels dangerous. Ordinary cultivators refine clones and let the clones do dangerous things, but Yun Qingshu treats her like a daughter. Thinking of this, Yun Xiangxian's inner emotions are extremely complicated, and she doesn't know what to say now. She is indeed a little jealous of Yun Qingshu in her heart, thinking that Lu Chen occupied her body because he regarded her as Yun Qingshu's original body. But now think about it, if there is no Yun Qingshu, there will be no clone. How can she be jealous of Yun Qingshu? Yun Qingshu also felt the complex emotions in Yun Xiangxian's heart, and then continued, from now on, I will not interfere with anything between you and Lu Chen, you are you, and I am me. Hearing this, Yun Xianxian was a little unbelievable. Yun Qingshu was the original body that created her. For any original body, the clone is useful. Especially for a clone like her, she has an independent consciousness, which means that Yun Qingshu separated a trace of soul when he created her. The more powerful the existence, the more important the soul is. Even if there is only a trace of soul, sometimes a trace of soul can also play a decisive role in the battle. If Yun Qingshu completely gives up her clone, it means that Yun Qingshu's soul will no longer be complete from now on, which is not a good thing for Yun Qingshu. Is her master really willing to give up this soul? Yun Xianxian asked at this time, since master no longer intends to interfere with the disciples and Lu Chen's affairs, why are you still staying in Tianchen world and not returning to Suanya Palace? Yun Qingshu replied coldly, since Lu Chen is also a survivor of the ancient era, I should naturally stay with him to help him recover his memory as soon as possible. I must know how he escaped the catastrophe. As long as by comparing our two experiences, it is possible to find the rules for avoiding great tribulations, thereby ensuring that I can successfully survive the great tribulations in this era. Yun Xianxian didn't understand the catastrophe Yun Qingshu mentioned, but she also knew that the so-called catastrophe must be a disaster for the universe. In the end, Yun Xianxian couldn't help but asked curiously, "What is the great disaster that Master mentioned?" Yun Qingshu did not answer, but directly shared the memory of the great catastrophe of the ancient era with Yun Xianxian. The next moment, Yun Xianxian felt countless memories pouring into her mind. When she saw the scene when the catastrophe came, her whole face turned pale and cold sweat broke out on her forehead. Yun Xianxian murmured, Is this a great disaster?" Yun Qingshu continued, "At this time, in the face of great catastrophe, even the emperor is just an ant. If you want to survive the catastrophe with Lu Chen, you should find a way to help him regain his strength and memory, instead of just pestering him and letting him consume energy on you." After hearing Yun Qingshu's words, a faint blush appeared on Yun Xiangxian's pale cheeks. End of chapter. Chapter 799 Chen Wanrong and number 039, S Special Physique. When Yun Xianxian thought about how she was jealous of Yun Qingshu's original body some time ago, and how she kept pestering Lu Chen and asking Lu Chen to do that kind of thing to her, she felt a little ashamed. Her master stayed in the Tianchen world to find a way to survive the catastrophe from Lu Chen, but she only knew how to be jealous. At this time, Yun Qingshu also felt the change in Yun Xiangxian's mood. She continued, "Of course, I didn't say that you can't practice dual cultivation, but I hope you can distinguish the primary from the secondary. If Lu Chen continues to degenerate and can't become an emperor, I'm afraid his deadline will come before the catastrophe comes. And you, as my clone, have a trace of my soul. Even if you don't become an emperor, you have the same lifespan as me, and I have almost unlimited lifespan. Do you want to see him die in front of you?" This. Yun Xiangxian's brain was stunned. She had never thought about this in the past. She didn't want to see Lu Chen die before her. If Lu Chen died, and she had a nearly infinite lifespan, how would she live in the future? Before she became Lu Chen's woman, she could live her whole life alone, but after becoming Lu Chen's woman, she had completely fallen in love with this traitor. If she didn't have this traitor, she couldn't imagine how painful her future would be. After a long silence, Yun Xianxian said, "Disciple understands." Yun Xianxian knew that Lu Chen had many women, and she definitely couldn't persuade Lu Chen by herself. Every time she asked Lu Chen to focus on cultivation, Lu Chen always caught her and tossed her around, saying that he was walking on the road of life. If she could persuade Lu Chen's other wives and concubines, and let them persuade Lu Chen together, maybe it would have some effect. Although she thought so in her heart, Yun Xianxian didn't hold too much hope. She had been with that traitor for so many years, and she knew too well what kind of person he was. Hearing Yun Xiangxian's answer, Yun Qingshu knew that Yun Xianxian had taken her words to heart, and then she continued, "From today on, unless you encounter a particularly urgent situation or your life is in danger, I will no longer use my spiritual sense to control your body. You, take care of yourself." Yun Xianxian was startled, and after coming to her senses, she said excitedly, "Thank you, Master." Just as Yun Xiangxian's voice fell, a maid's voice came from the door, "My lady, concubine Chen is here." Hearing this, Yun Xianxian said without hesitation, "Come in." The next moment, Chen Wanrong entered the room and saw another woman in the bedroom, and that woman also pressed her master on the bed. Chen Wanrong's cold face suddenly showed a trace of imperceptible weirdness. After being with Lu Chen for a long time, her mind was inevitably poisoned by that bad guy. Seeing this scene, she thought Yun Xianxian and Yun Qingshu were sticking together. Seeing Chen Wanrong looking at her strangely, Yun Xianxian coughed and said coldly, "Wrong, this is your master." Hearing this, Chen Wanrong was stunned again. "Master?" Chen Wanrong glanced at Yun Qingshu and found that her master looked very similar to her master. Chen Wanrong didn't think much and bowed to Yun Qingshu and said, "Greetings, Master." As soon as Chen Wanrong finished speaking, she felt a surge of spiritual power flowing into her body. Chen Wanrong didn't move. She knew that Yun Qingshu was exploring her cultivation talent. At this moment, Yun Qingshu's expression suddenly became serious. Seeing Yun Qingshu frown slightly, Yun Xianxian knew that something was wrong with Chen Wanrong, and she immediately said, "Rong grew up in the Tianchen world. I saw that she had good talent, so I accepted her as my personal disciple." After a moment of silence, Yun Qingshu said to Chen Wanrong thoughtfully, "Practice well. With your talent, it is only a matter of time before you become an emperor." Seeing that Yun Qingshu gave Chen Wanrong such a high evaluation, Yun Xianxian was stunned. Chen Wanrong herself stood there with a confused look on her face. It is only a matter of time before she becomes an emperor? That means she will definitely become an emperor? This evaluation is too high. How high does talent have to be to say that she will definitely become an emperor in the future? Yun Qingshu continued, "Wait for Lu Chen's memory of the ancient era to awaken, and then let him help you check your talent. Then you will understand what I mean." Chen Wanrong came back to her senses and said quickly, "Thank you, Master." Yun Qingshu slowly got up from Yun Xiangxian's body. She stood by the bed, glanced at Chen Wanrong again, and then said to herself, "I should be right." Yun Xianxian also sat up at this time. She asked in confusion, "Master, I have examined Rong's body. Although she is still somewhat talented compared to other people in this world, her talent is far inferior to those cultivators in the cultivation world. Why do you say that she will become an emperor in the future?" Yun Xianxian was really curious about what happened to her personal disciple. Yun Qingshu said calmly, "You don't have all my memories, so you can't see her specialness. Her special physique ranks first in the entire ancient era. As far as I know, there is only one person in the entire ancient era who has such a physique." After these words came out, Yun Xianxian was shocked again. The physique ranks first in the entire ancient era? The disciple who was recruited by himself in the lower world actually has such a special physique? Really? She just received some memories from Yun Qingshu, so she already had a general understanding of the ancient era. The ancient era had countless years, and countless physiques were born, but Chen Wanrong's physique could actually rank first in the ancient era? Yun Qingshu felt a little puzzled. How could such a heaven-defying physique be born in a low-level world like Tianchen world? And Yun Qingshu gradually felt that Tianchen world did not seem as simple as she imagined. After Yun Xianxian came to Tianchen world, the spiritual connection between her and Yun Xianxian was broken. In order to find Yun Xianxian, she finally had to rely on Tianji Pavilion to deduce Yun Xiangxian's location. At first, she thought that some powerful existence had used some method to break the spiritual connection between her and Yun Xianxian and imprisoned Yun Xianxian. As a result, after reading Yun Xiangxian's memory, she found that Lu Chen had not done such a thing to Yun Xianxian, and before Lu Chen was born into this world, the spiritual connection between Yun Xianxian and her had been cut off. First, the spiritual connection between her and Yun Xianxian was cut off, and then Lu Chen, a survivor of the ancient era, was born in this world, and now there is another woman with a reincarnation physique. In addition, she herself is a survivor of the ancient era. Yun Qingshu suddenly felt that there was a powerful force, or an invisible hand pushing them to the Tianchen world. There must be someone behind this manipulating all this. Thinking of this, Yun Qingshu's face became even colder, and the coldness on his body was also raging in the hall. End of this chapter. Chapter 800. Is there something wrong with Lu Chen? As a survivor from the ancient era, she was actually pushed away by some kind of force, and the person behind the scenes even led her to the Tianchen world. This made Yun Qingshu feel a very strong sense of crisis in her heart. Who is behind all this? Seeing that Yun Qingshu's face was a little ugly, Yun Xianxian said cautiously, "Master, you." Before Yun Xianxian finished speaking, Yun Qingshu interrupted and said, "There are Lu Chen's other wives and concubines in Black Moon City, right? Chen Wanrong and Yun Xianxian are both related to Lu Chen, so the first thing Yun Qingshu thought of was to check the people around Lu Chen." Seeing that Yun Qingshu actually asked about Lu Chen's wife and concubines, Yun Xianxian said quickly, "Master, what are you going to do? If you take action against Lu Chen's wives and concubines, Lu Chen will definitely fight you to the death when he comes back." Yun Xianxian knew very well the importance of Lu Chen's wives and concubines to Lu Chen. Although Lu Chen was a lustful man, he was very affectionate towards every woman in his life. If anyone dared to do anything to them, Lu Chen would definitely fight with that woman. People work hard. Yun Qingshu ignored Yun Xiangxian's words. She immediately released her spiritual power and instantly explored the entire Black Moon City. The next moment, Yun Qingshu appeared in the courtyard where Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo were. At this time, Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo were discussing cultivation issues. After noticing the appearance of a strange and powerful aura, the two of them instantly became vigilant. "Who?" The two women looked warily at Yun Qingshu outside the pavilion. Seeing that the person's appearance was somewhat similar to that of Yun Xianxian, Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo instantly guessed Yun Qingshu's identity. Wu Yunwan asked, "I wonder why Senior suddenly came to Tianchen World?" Li Qingguo said from the side, "Could it be that Senior wants to take advantage of His Majesty's absence to take action against us?" At this point, Li Qingguo gathered all the spiritual power in her palms. Although she knew she couldn't defeat Yun Qingshu, she couldn't just surrender. Yun Qingshu didn't talk much to Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo. She just explored their bodies, then frowned and said to herself, "Sure enough." She discovered that Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo were not ordinary people. Maybe others couldn't tell, but as a survivor of the ancient era, she could tell at a glance that Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo's physiques were also unique to the ancient era. Who on earth gathered so many people related to the ancient era? What's the purpose of that person? Yun Qingshu felt more and more that Tianchen World was a dragon's pond and a tiger's den, and she even had the idea of leaving Tianchen World immediately. Yun Qingshu ignored Wu Yunwan and Li Qingguo, and then went to Yanchinj Palace. As a result, she also found many women with ancient physiques in Yanchinj Palace. It can be said that the women related to Lu Chen all have special physiques. These physiques are not adapted to the climate in this era and cannot play a big role, so they seem to have little talent for cultivation. But if these wives and concubines of Lu Chen were placed in the previous era, they must have been powerful and overlord-level emperors in the universe. How come there are so many physiques from the ancient era? The key is that these women are still Lu Chen's wives and concubines. Is there something wrong with Lu Chen? Lu Chen said that he had not recovered the memory of the ancient era, but in fact he had recovered it long ago and had been collecting physiques related to the ancient era, and then wanted to use these women to achieve some ulterior purpose? Only through Yun Xiangxian's memory, Lu Chen seemed to have just reincarnated into the Tianchen world through some means. He should not have so much time to arrange these. In the end, Yun Qingshu decided to leave Tianchen world temporarily. After Lu Chen's memory recovered in the future, she would come to Lu Chen to see if Lu Chen knew something. Thinking of this, Yun Qingshu returned to Yun Xiangxian's room again. At this time, Yun Xianxian was still talking to Chen Wanrong about Yun Qingshu. When he saw Yun Qingshu coming back, Yun Xianxian immediately said, "Master, what did you do just now?" Yun Qingshu said coldly, "Don't worry, I didn't do anything to Lu Chen's women. I just checked their talents." Having said this, Yun Qingshu glanced at Chen Wanrong again, and then returned to Yun Xianxian, "When Lu Chen comes back, tell Lu Chen that I will return to Suanya Palace first. If her memory recovers, I will come immediately. Suanya Palace can find me, or use the formation to inform me." After the words fell, Yun Qingshu waved his hand, and a dozen purple spirit crystals appeared in the air. The next moment, the purple power released by these spirit crystals gathered into a pattern and fell to the ground. Soon an array was formed on the ground. Law. After doing all this, Yun Qingshu reminded again, although the catastrophe is still a long time away for most people, Lu Chen is a person who has escaped a catastrophe after all. For him, time is not enough. Since if you want to be with him, you must help him regain his memory as soon as possible. I still say what I said. If you continue to degenerate, I'm afraid his deadline will come before the catastrophe comes. Although Lu Chen has been reincarnated once, even the soul of the emperor cannot withstand the erosion of the long river of time, not to mention that he has not yet become the emperor in this era. Yun Xianxian said, "Thank you, Master, for reminding me." Disciple understands. Yun Qingshu didn't say anything more and disappeared directly in the bedroom. After she could no longer sense Yun Qingshu's breath, Chen Wanrong asked, "Why does the Grand Master look so similar to the Master?" Chen Wanrong was very curious about the relationship between Yun Xianxian and Yun Qingshu. Although Yun Xianxian said that Yun Qingshu was the Grand Master, she always felt that it was not that simple. Rather than saying that Yun Xianxian and Yun Qingshu were in a master-disciple relationship, she felt that they were more like mother and daughter. Seeing that Chen Wanrong was curious about this question, Yun Xianxian did not hide it from Chen Wanrong. She directly answered, "The master is her clone." Hearing Yun Xiangxian's answer, Chen Wanrong was slightly stunned. "My Grand Master is not my Grand Master, but my master? Then should she call her Grand Master or Master?" Yun Xianxian continued, "Now the master and she have been completely separated. From now on, she is her and the master is the master. If you see her in the future, you will still call her Grand Master." Chen Wanrong instantly understood what Yun Xianxian meant, "Yes, Master." At this time, Yun Xianxian looked out the window and murmured, "I don't know how that traitor is doing now." Yun Qingshu returned to the ferry boat of Swanyu Palace and said to the elders on the ferry boat, "We can go back." Hearing this, all the elders were stunned. They just went back like this? Where is Yun Xianxian? Their palace master didn't bring Yun Xianxian back? At this time, an elder asked curiously, "Palace master, I heard that Emperor Xia seems to have left the Tianchen world. Why don't we take this opportunity to bring Yun Xianxian back?" Yun Qingshu turned his head to look at the elder, his purple eyes instantly turned red, and a burst of cold air emanated from his body. "Are you teaching me how to do things?" The elder was so scared that he knelt on the ground. "Palace master, spare me, I'm just worried that we won't be able to report to Lu Yanghua if we go back like this." Yun Qingshu said lightly, "I have my own way to deal with it." Seeing Yun Qingshu say this, the elders didn't say anything more, and just like that, the Swanyu Palace's immortal boat set out on its return journey. End of this chapter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Thank you.